Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has, when you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
You ain't telling me nothing for the die. No one lies, no strings. I ain't your puppet if I step aside. Unless you wanna run and I suggest you run and hide with the rest. If they don't better, let them know we're coming. We all live, all live. Enough force to send you in a bit of your force. Rage, reign supreme, soaked to the bone, head to toe on camera. Caught red-handed, holding a smoking pistol that you can't let go. We all live.
And welcome into the Friday Eve edition of the Rick Robinson Show right here live on KLRNradio.com. For those of you who've been here for a while, you know Thursdays are my metal days because I usually work until midnight or 2 in the morning. Actually, I'm sorry. Eastern time, 1 to 3 in the morning because I'm insane. Anyway, so going to crank this back up for a minute. Get your headbang on. You got a couple seconds. We're not down! Yes, I know everything I learned about headbanging. I learned from Beavis and Butthead. Don't judge me. All right, anyway, so we're here. We're live. It's Thursday. And oh my God, is everybody's hair on fire today? So, of course, we're going to be talking about the tariffs and everything else. Look, I'm just going to say this because, look, I'm not a tariff expert. I'm not. I eat, sleep, and breathe politics, but tariffs haven't really been discussed seriously in quite some time, like longer than most of us have been alive. And they've been poo-pooed on for forever. But the only point that I want to make before I start pulling information from other sources who know more things about this than I do is I would like to point out if tariffs were so bad, why does the rest of the world use them? The only country who really doesn't use them to our advantage is us. And you may have heard if you listened to the whatever program last night. I promise I wasn't as cranky as I sounded. I was just trying to make some points with Stacy because we rarely disagree. But on the tariff thing right now, we strongly disagree because she feels like that's the reason her gas prices went up yesterday. She feels like, Trump was not honest with us about what his version of reciprocal tariffs meant, et cetera, et cetera. Look, that wasn't what caused the gas prices to go up. If you're wanting to know what's going on with the stock market right now, all the people that already have made all the money that they want from the stock market are pulling their money out of it because they're spiteful little bitches. That's what's going on right now. They are doing everything they can to try to orchestrate a midterm blowout by making the economy look even less stable than it already was. And it may or may not work. I don't know. What I do know is the same thing that I've been saying for a long time. We cannot continue to keep doing the same things over and over and over again, and yet somehow, wrong button, hang on. I was fixing something and got distracted. And somehow keep expecting different results. And we have done that over and over and over again throughout my lifetime. And I, for one, am tired of playing that game. All right, so I'm going to do this. I guess I could do this. I keep forgetting that's an option. I'll just put myself in the corner so that way at least you guys can see more of the screen. So this is from our friends at Town Hall. We are going to be starting and actually probably unfortunately spending quite a bit of the show talking about these tariffs because everybody that has an opinion is giving it. I'm really not trying to do that much. I just know that at this point, I feel like President Trump has earned the benefit of the doubt. I didn't give it to him in 15 and 16, and I regretted that in 20 because I saw everything that he was trying to do. I think this is going to be much of the same thing, but this is from Kevin McAuliffe over at Town Hall. Why we should be very angry about the tariffs and why Trump is right again. So maybe we should be angry, but maybe it's not for the reasons everybody is. So let's take a look at this together. On April 2nd, President Donald J. Trump did something no other modern president has had the spine to do. He declared Liberation Day and slapped sweeping tariffs on the very nations that have been gutting the American economy for decades. A 10% universal tariff across all imports, targeted punitive tariffs up to 34% on bad actors like China. And guess what? We should be furious. Not at Trump, but at the spineless presidents before him who let things get this bad in the first place. And this is kind of what I've been saying all along. We are feeling a lot of pain right now because we didn't make these choices when it would have been an easier transition to have made. And I blame every president that came before Donald Trump, in some cases even including Ronald Reagan, because they bought into the lie that we were going to figure out how to be the top dog in the global economy when nobody really wanted us there. That's the point that I can't make people reconcile. We have a choice. The only choice that we really have right now, and I'm going to pull away from this for a minute since we're not really reading through it, but we have all of these things that all of these presidents have supposedly tried to do. And in reality, all they've really been doing is hastening the global apocalypse, so to speak, and transitioning us into a one world government. I mean, Jesus Christ, even Bush 41 had his Points of Lights Foundation. What the hell do you guys think that was? The problem that I have with this one world government thing is it buys into everything from WEF and everywhere in between, telling us how bad we are as people, that humans are basically nothing but a virus that needs to be culled so Mother Earth can survive and thrive, and that they need a smaller population to make sure that we don't destroy the planet. That's my problem with every single bit of this, because at some point along the way, the people that we were sending to DC to supposedly take care of me and you and all of the things within America started looking outside of America and going, well, maybe if we can be the ones to orchestrate this one world government, we'll still be the ones at the top of the pyramid. Problem is, the world hates us. The world has always hated us. They have tolerated us because they've needed us, but they've never liked us. Look at how Britain talks about us behind our backs. Look at how Canada talks about us behind our backs. It's not about what they say to your face. It's about what they say when you're not in the room. And that's what Joe Biden never understood, because we're going to get into this today too, because of course there's some book drops that are happening that are painting him in an even worse light. But again, that's why the title of today's show is The Die is Cast, and just nobody knows. Because I don't know what's going to happen with us finding out that we didn't have a president for 4 years. I don't know what's going to happen now that we have a president who's actually trying to put us back into control of things and actually putting us into bargaining positions of strength. And I say this again, I know we're afraid to talk about this, but even if our economy is basically a house of cards, I mean, granted, it's cardboard stock cards, so it's still sturdier than everybody else's house of cards economy. We are still the biggest purchaser of goods worldwide. Why do you think so many countries and even parts of, Canada is different because it's province by province, except for some certain things. But even some of the provinces in Canada that were talking the most smack are like, well, if he gets rid of his tariffs, we'll get rid of ours. No, bitch, you get rid of yours first. And then we'll discuss whether or not we're going to get rid of ours. Because part of the reason why I don't think Donald Trump is going to pull back some of these tariffs as quickly as everybody wants him to is because he's trying to force business to come back here. Now, this is a double-edged sword. We're going to get back into the article. Well, actually, let me finish this train of thought because I'm not as good at that as I used to be. So it's a double-edged sword, though, because while we are bringing jobs back into America, and we've already seen this, there's $6 trillion pledged of investment, I think, spanning between the next 5 to 6 years, which is a lot of fucking money. So let's not look at that like it's nothing. But we're talking about a long time to get it spun up. But it's just like I tried to explain to Stacy last night. Once they start breaking ground on these factories, that means our construction workers are going to have jobs again. Actual shovel-ready jobs. I know that's a term that's thrown around a lot. So that's going to bolster economy in certain places. We've got the deregulation that we're working on, which is happening at a lightning pace. It's actually happened so quickly that we don't even really talk about all the regulations that they're cutting anymore. The EPA is getting out of everybody's way, which is going to be an amazing thing for our economy. They're getting rid of these water-conserving toilets and water-conserving shower heads that really, in reality, use the same amount of water. It just takes longer for you to use it, so you feel, oh, it's not as bad because now I can take. No, it's the same amount of water that you would have been using anyway if you were able to take a slightly shorter shower. I, for one, would rather have a shower head that actually fucking works. Maybe it's just me. But anyway, so look, back to this article so we can finish that because there's a clip that I want to get to too before we have to take the break. So I hate that everybody's made this a thing. Let me be clear. That was the author, not me. Well, sort of. I gave it the Obama inflection because it drives me nuts. Anyway, these tariffs didn't start a trade war. They responded to one. And that right there is a point that I have been trying to make for months. We were already in a trade war. We just weren't firing any shots. We were bending over the table. These people were already tariffing us to death. Why do you think so many of our industries were moving into other countries? To try to get around their tariffs. The same thing that we're trying to get companies to do now. The reason this is such a big deal, though, is yes, I'm glad that we're bringing steel production back to America. I'm glad that we're working on getting sawmills and woodcutters and everybody back to work. I'm glad that we're working on getting automotive folks back to work. But we also need to be working on the jobs of the future because let's face it, probably within the next 10 to 15 years, most of those jobs are going to be being done by robots. It's not a matter of if now, but when that starts happening. Because AI is starting to learn at an exponential pace. And we're going to be getting into that too because Elon Musk, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, has done a masterful thing. And I'm going to make a note of that so I don't forget it when we go to break because I want to talk about that today too. Because the stock trade sell-off thing between XAI and X was absolutely masterful. And we're going to get into some of that today too. So again, Donald Trump responded to a trade war. For decades, our so-called allies and trading partners have been gleefully waging economic warfare on the United States with the full permission, no, the actual encouragement of prior administrations. China flooded our markets with cheap steel, violating trade norms and collapsing American mills. The European Union protected its own industries while slapping barriers on ours. Japan, Taiwan, and others enjoyed one-sided access to our consumers while shielding their own markets with layers of red tape and tariffs. And what did our leaders do in response? They yelled Bohica. Sorry, that was an ad-lib. They looked the other way, smiled, shook hands, signed one-sided trade deals, sold us out. They told us it was for the global good, for peace, for prosperity. But the only people prospering were in Beijing, Brussels, and Tokyo. In small-town Ohio, Detroit, and western Pennsylvania, all we got were pink slips and boarded-up factories. Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are long overdue justice. They're a correction to the rigged game that has been hurting American businesses, workers, and families for far too long. So let's talk about steel and aluminum. In 2018, President Trump placed a 25% tariff on foreign steel and a 10% on aluminum to push back against dumping and reclaim our national security edge. That wasn't a rash decision. It was backed by years of data showing our dependence on foreign metals that made us vulnerable. Yet in that time, DC elites told us to let it happen. It's okay. Just breathe. It's gonna be okay. You just bend over and take it like a good little bitch. We're gonna take care of you. We even have some stuff for the pain when we're done. That free trade meant letting foreign nations cheat while we played by the rules. Even our farmers haven't been spared. Take California's almond growers, part of a $23.6 billion agriculture export economy. Under previous administrations, they were hung out to dry as countries like China and India retaliated against our lack of backbone by imposing their own crushing tariffs. Instead of defending our farmers, those in power shrugged and said it was the cost of doing business in a global economy. Okay, so this is not the writer's line. I'm going to simplify this. That's a bunch of bullshit. Now, the hand-wringers in the media and predictably the Biden administration holdovers are moaning that these tariffs could raise consumer prices, that they could cause friction, that they might prompt retaliation. Good. Fucking good. Let them squirm. Because the goal here isn't to make life easy for globalist bureaucrat assholes. It's to bring fairness back to American trade, to restore dignity to the American worker, and to put America first, and to do it unfucking apologetically. This is what I voted for. This is what I voted for. Is it going to hurt for a little bit as we start teaching these people that we're willing to stand up for what the fuck we believe in again? Yes, it's going to hurt. It may even hurt a little bit. It may hurt a lot, but it's for the best. Because we have been getting, everybody wants to say we've been getting raked over the coals. I'm going to call it like it is. We have been getting ass raped on the world stage for decades. And we have been told to take it and smile like the little whore bitches that they made us into, even though we didn't ask them to make us into those. All we wanted to do was be left the fuck alone. That was it. Y'all woke me up when you killed my business in 2009. Y'all kept me awake because nothing ever really changed. Didn't matter what the letter was behind the names. Didn't matter who was in charge. Didn't matter who was pulling the levers because there was always shit going on behind the scenes that we didn't know about. And guess what? We're finally starting to figure all of it out. There have been people that are the actual elites in DC, and I've been saying this for a long time. You tell me who you can't fire, and I will tell you who is actually in charge. We are seeing who is actually in charge because the judges and the elites are in the same pockets because they're all in bed with the same groups. And they're doing everything they can to hang on to their grift, their graft, or whatever fucking word is being used these days, because that still confuses me that it seems to have changed and somehow I missed the memo. But the goal here isn't to make life easy for any of these assholes. The Treasury Secretary, Bessent, was right to warn other nations not to retaliate. The message is simple. This isn't about starting fights. It's about ending a fight and ending decades of economic surrender. For too long, the U.S. has subsidized the success of other nations while they've exploited our openness. That ends now. And let's talk about the bigger picture. These tariffs aren't just about economics. They're about sovereignty and national security. COVID-19 exposed what happens when America offshores everything from microchips to medicine. We were left scrambling. Now, with these tariffs, we have a shot at rebuilding critical industries here at home. We've heard for years that American manufacturing is a relic of the past. But I ask, why the fuck is that? That we should get used to service sector jobs and to be the world's money changers. That we can just code apps and order stuff from China. But what happens when China turns off the tap? What happens when the global supply chains buckle? We saw that in 2020. How well did that go? And let's face it, China's supply chains still aren't back where they're supposed to be. And that's because more people died in China of COVID than they ever told us about. China is struggling. Why do you think they're doing everything they can to appear tough to the outside world? Unlike Western civilizations, they don't value peace. They see peace as a weakness. They see peacekeeping as a weakness because there's a big difference between a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. A peacekeeper is going to be willing to do whatever it takes to maintain the status quo and to not cause rough waters. And that's exactly what every administration before Donald Trump has done, and the one after Donald Trump in his little intermission at halftime show. And that's why we have somebody back in charge now who's saying, no, we are in a position of strength around the world. We always have been, and we stopped acting like we were. The problem, when you are the biggest, baddest dude on the block and you start showing weakness, everybody starts coming for you. And that's what's been happening to us for a long time. We have been the elephant being picked to death by a pack of hyenas all over the globe, and they're coming at us over and over and over again and ripping away what they can at every chance. And instead of us doing anything to stop it, we're just like, we're going to be a one world government soon enough. No, fuck that. I know I'm fired up today and my language is salty early. I apologize for nothing. There's a reason I run a disclaimer. So the problem is what happens again when these supply chains buckle. We need American factories. We need American steel, and we need to stop exporting all the shit that we make here to other countries just so we can buy shit from them. We need Americans that build things again. Tariffs may cause short-term adjustments, but they pave the way for long-term independence, and that's worth every penny. The truth is, these tariffs are a moral issue. When we allow foreign governments to manipulate currency, exploit labor, and dump products in our markets, we're enabling injustice. And when our own leaders look the other way, they're complicit. President Trump isn't just fixing trade. He's exposing the rot. He's showing us how many American politicians were more loyal to global think tanks than to the people who elected them. And that's what's really stinging the establishment, because Trump, like Reagan before him, puts the American people first, not in rhetoric, not in focus group slogans, but in action. Bold, unapologetic, unmistakable motherfucking action. Where Reagan challenged the Soviets, Trump is challenging a corrupt globalist system. And just like Reagan was right then, Trump is right now. If you're not angry about these tariffs, you're not paying attention. We should be furious, but not for why you think. We should be pissed that it took so long to get here. Furious at presidents who smiled while our industries died. Furious at politicians who used middle America as a bargaining chip for Davos clout. But thanks to Trump, the tide is turning. He may be the only president since Reagan who's had the courage to stare down the world and say, you will not take advantage of America anymore. And for that, every American, every farmer, every factory worker, every small business owner should be standing and cheering, because it's about time someone stood up for us. It's about time that somebody said, this is as far as this shit goes. You have been taking advantage of our kindness and assuming it was weakness since World War II. Those days are done. If you're going to do business with us, you're going to do business with us on our rules, not yours. And if you don't like it, kick fucking rocks. Who's going to buy your shit? This is the point. We are the last global powerhouse. China is trying to become one, but they've been becoming one on our backs. Now that we're standing up again, a lot of things are about to start changing. And I'm not promising you there may not be some short-term uncertainties. I'm not telling you not to buckle up, Buttercup. What I'm telling you is I promise you that if things go the way that I expect them to go, then the only people that are going to be eating crow at this point are going to be everybody that said the tariffs were a bad idea. Because again, what are we going to do? We're just going to keep doing more of the same? I mean, this was part of the discussion Stacey and I had last night, because she was mad about the graph and how it actually looked like what they were talking about was actually the amount of the trade deficit we had with countries, not the amount of the actual tariffs. But the funny thing is, I keep hearing different numbers from the news folks, and everybody that I'm seeing is throwing around different numbers. And I understand that he may have used a different word for what we thought was going to be, reciprocal tariffs. But there's other people that have caught on to this too. So before we go too much further, I do want to play this clip. And then we're going to take let's take the break first. Let me get the clip queued up first and make sure that it's working. It should be. Okay, so let me fix this real quick. All right, so let's take the break. And then we'll be back. Yeah, I know. I apologize. Some of you are like, dude, it's awfully early for you to be this cranky. Have we met? Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you just finding your way in, whether you're watching us on X, on 2 accounts, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're finding us, make sure you're liking the feed, sharing the feed, following and or subscribing, or both. Actually, while we're on break, if you're on X, go pop over to YouTube or Rumble and make sure you click subscribe over there too. I'm telling you, we need your help to take over the world. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Celebrity designer Jeff Lewis is back with Hollywood House Lift.
I'm excited to be working with new clients.
I'm not getting rid of that.
I hope I never see you both again.
Yeah. An all-new season.
Those have to go. That has to go.
From oh, wow,
It's been an actual nightmare.
to oh, wow.
This is such an upgrade.
With celebrities like Josh Duhamel, Christina Ricci, and Gina Rodriguez. Dazzle me, Jeff.
It looks like Chuck E. Cheese.
Stream an all-new season of Hollywood House Lift with Jeff Lewis, now streaming on Freevee.
I'm Jordan Klinger, an attorney at McIntyre Law. The decision to hire an attorney after you've been injured is important. The decision on who to hire is even more important. At McIntyre Law, we will settle a case if the offer to our client is fair. Partial justice is no justice at all. At McIntyre Law, we are committed to obtaining full justice for our clients. Contact McIntyre Law at 405-917-5200 or visit us at mcintyrelaw.com.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the third time jump-starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last
Forgot
month?
my camera was on.
What are you
We'll be
doing
right
now?
back.
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
So when I'm coming to see you, see you.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
they can. And the violence causes silence. Who are we mistaken? But you see, it's not me, it's not my family. In your head, they are fighting with their tanks and their bombs.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is the Friday Eve edition of the Rick Robinson Show. Just a quick reminder, we do this thing every Tuesday through Friday between the hours of noon to 3 Eastern. That may actually be changing in the summer months. I haven't officially decided yet. Once I do, I will let you know. Also, later tonight, don't forget to come back and hang out for the Culture Shift with Brad with the good hair and our resident Amish, and then hang out for Jen and Rick, followed by BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. All of that kicking off at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, otherwise known as Aggie time, and run until about 1-ish in the morning or so. And I'll be the one running most of those boards and buttons. So, yay for me. Hey, I turned this into my job for a reason. I may grumble about it because it's kind of like a shtick, but I love doing this. All right. Anyway, speaking of things that I love doing, I love educating people, and I love trying to make people understand that some of the stuff that everybody's freaking out about, nobody really knows the answers to, because we haven't tried to use tariffs in this way or fashion since before we had a federal income tax. And let's not forget that before we had a federal income tax, tariffs and bonds were how our country raised most of its money for the things that it needed. And it worked pretty well. As a matter of fact, in that time, we were the most prosperous country on the planet, which is, I think, one of the reasons why people are looking at this again. And again, I do think that this is going to be a short-term fix only, because if we're doing nothing but bringing last century's jobs back into the country, then eventually we're going to start having a problem again. So I think this will work to bolster things, but I think some of the stuff that's being created for AI and all the things like that are amazing. I think we need to start figuring out how to be innovators again, because there are lots of new technologies that are just there waiting to be embraced instead of us continuing to lock ourselves into 20th century stuff. But this, like I said, this is a stopgap measure. This is to get things rolling back the other way. And this is a rather impassioned defense of everything that a lot of folks are screaming about today. And it took place on none other than Piers Morgan's show. But it's kind of a long clip. We're probably going to run the whole thing. So here we go.
What I find so frustrating about the conversation around tariffs is that we all agree on the problem. We all agree that the deindustrialization of America led to the downward mobility of the American working class, deaths of despair, people working multiple jobs and not being able to afford the American dream. We all agree that it is deeply unfair for the American middle class to be bearing the burden of unfair tariffs from other countries. We all agree that it is great for the president to have leverage in order to demand reasonable things, like that countries stop allowing fentanyl to murder 100,000 Americans every year, and that Mexico do its part to police its own border. And yet when somebody has the courage to show up and say to Wall Street, screw you, I am waging war. I am waging class warfare on behalf of the American working class. And you elites in Wall Street, you do what you need to do, because I'm not going to stop fighting for the American working class. Suddenly, everybody is sitting around going, oh no, the stock market. Yeah, the stock market looks like that because the rich are punishing Trump for siding with the neglected and humiliated American working class over them. We have already seen these tariffs work, Pierce. The number of people crossing the southern border is at 0. Fentanyl is at record lows for the last 10 years. We have already seen $1.2 trillion in manufacturing invested in this country since January 21st. So they have already worked. Now, how long is Wall Street going to keep trying to punish this president for standing the American working class? I don't know, but I can tell you that the view from the street is people cannot believe that there is a president who is working for them, who is putting them first and telling Wall Street to go screw itself. Wall Street, which picked the Democrats for the last 3 election cycles in a row. That's what the real story is here. American Compass did a survey of just GOP voters. We know now that the majority of Americans who make under $100,000 a year now vote for the Republican Party. So that was almost a means-tested poll, and they found that 77% of GOP voters, the working class, not the elites, said that when they were asked, they said they would be willing to pay higher prices if it meant bringing back manufacturing, because of course in their mind they are going to be the beneficiaries of those manufacturing jobs. About Canada, a lot of people are asking, why Canada? We love Canada. Canada are our friends. Why wage this, tariff war on Canada? And of course the answer is simple. Canada and Mexico are the back door to the American economy because we have this trade deal with them, the USMCA. So if there are no tariffs on China, if Canada and Mexico do not match our tariffs on China, China simply builds car manufacturing plants in Canada and in Mexico, which they have already done, and they use that in order to get tariff-free cars into the American market, which is exactly what President Trump is trying to get away from. So what he wants from them is for them to close that back door. And I just want to emphasize again, back in the 70s, when the majority of the GDP in America was in the middle class, right? That's kind of like the golden era that we look back to of when the economy was really healthy and working class people felt that they could afford a middle class life. 25% of our economy was in manufacturing. Today, the top 10% control over 60% of the GDP. And that is a direct result of the fact that only 10% of our economy is manufacturing. And the largest share, 20%, is in finance and real estate, which is, of course, how other countries we have artificially inflated the dollar, which makes the product of the American worker unaffordable. And so what the tariffs are doing are simply saying we are refusing the race to the bottom in wages. It is unfair to the American worker, which I think we have all basically agreed on at this point.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the only point that I'm trying to make. For the same people that have been screaming and yelling that the rich need to pay their fair share, that the rich need to do this, the rich need to do that, these same people understand that rich people have ways to never have to pay taxes. It may not be fair, but again, as my grandpa used to say, in Oklahoma, if you want life to be fair, you better just hang around every September, because that's the only fair in life you're ever going to get here in Oklahoma, is the Oklahoma State Fair. So I say this to you in all sincerity. The fact of the matter is Donald Trump is doing everything he can to, and I hate using this phrase, but it's fairly accurate, level the playing field for the working class, because the working class has been an afterthought for everybody since Reagan. Nobody cared. As a matter of fact, most of the elites have been doing everything they can to destroy the middle class. And I want to explain this to you in a way that I hope you're all going to understand, because we've all, seen the classic castle with the moat and the drawbridge. So you've got the poors on the side, outside the castle, on the other side of the moat, and you've got the rich and the elites in the castle. But then you've got the drawbridge, the middle class, the connective tissue that helps to get, if done properly, poor people into the middle class and eventually into the upper class. And again, I'm tired of using qualifiers like that, but it's the only way to explain it, because I'm tired of us putting everybody into pigeonholes. Because that is something the communists do. Because they get us looking at the things that make us different, not the things that make us the same. And then they use that to divide us. They use it to sow dissent and to do everything they can to attack the family, because the communists want the state to be mother and father. Do you guys not understand that's exactly what's happening with our education system? Which is a direct offshoot of this particular problem too, if we're being really honest. Because if we had the kind of economy that we used to have, and we had people that were being taught to critically think, they would understand exactly what's been happening to us for the last 50 years or so. Except they're not taught to critically think anymore. I think Gen X may have been the last real generation to get some of that. And it even started, depending on where you were regionally, it changed faster in certain places than it did others. As a matter of fact, and I've talked about this before, when we left Oklahoma and started moving around the country during the oil bust in the mid 80s, when we moved to the left coast, and I realized they didn't even teach history there. They taught a class called social studies. I'd never heard of that before, and I was really confused. I moved to the Seattle area in 6th grade. Went to 3 different schools in the Seattle area because we moved around the entire time that I was in the Seattle area. So I went to 6th grade in a certain school, started junior high. I know all you younger kids are like, it's middle school. Not when I went. Shut up. 7th grade, and then went to yet another junior high in 8th grade before my stepfather at the time retired and moved us all back to Delaware, where he came from. And then I noticed the same thing on the East Coast. 9th grade, they were teaching social studies, not history. 10th grade, we moved back to Oklahoma because, bad things happened between mom and stepdad. And all of a sudden, I was back in a school system where they were teaching history again. So again, depending on where you were, depending on who had their hooks into where, things were changing at different rates all throughout the country. The problem is they've normalized all this stuff to the point now where everything's basically the same now. They keep telling you, well, really, ultimately, it's schools that it's the states that get to decide how their education system works. Yeah, not really. I mean, we're watching this play out with Donald Trump in Maine right now. I don't like the fact that girls and boys are fighting with one another over gender, and certain boys that apparently sucked in sports as boys have decided to become girls so that they can try to get trophies that aren't just participation trophies, when in reality, that's pretty much all it is. But we're watching the exact thing that we've been trying to warn you about play out between Donald Trump and Maine school districts right now, because the governor is saying, we're not enforcing your new executive order. We're going to enforce first the laws of Maine. And the president has said, okay, that's great. Well, you can't have funding. He actually just pulled it effective today. Now, you can either agree or disagree with the reason that the funding is being pulled, and you're either on the side of that or you're not. I have a problem with it, much like I have a problem with the results from Wisconsin from, day before yesterday, because I'm tired of outside money dictating to states how they do things, whether it's elections, whether it's education. I have a huge problem with all of that. That's one of the reasons why I'm glad we are starting to work on decentralizing a bunch of things. Amish and I talked about this last night. On top of the tariffs, on top of the decentralization, on top of the deregulation, I think Doge made a huge mistake. While I do believe that there are certain agencies that should be required to report to work in person, and some of it should still be housed in D.C., I think one of the biggest mistakes that we have made as a nation is not taking advantage of the current technology levels, which were exposed and used quite widely during COVID, that kept Congress critters and Senate critters in their districts 90% of the time. That is how it was supposed to be. You were supposed to be, as a Congress critter, living among the people that you are dictating policy for. And I don't say fighting for policy for anymore, because most of the Congress critters don't fight for anything, they dictate. Just look at how the Democrats treat us. Look at how some of the Republicans even treat us. I mean, I don't remember the last time that I've disagreed with Rand Paul, but I'm ready to go to guns with him over this tariff bullshit. Because Canada has been raking us over the coals, and no matter how they want it, well, it's not really that bad because the tariffs only kick in when they start declaring an overage. You know the problem? They declare those overages really low, and then they tax the crap out of our stuff. Those percentages for overages are nuts. We have some of the best beef in the world. We can't sell it anywhere. We buy everybody else's, which is mostly lower quality until you get to places like Japan. But we buy everybody else's. They won't buy ours. Why do you think we've been subsidizing our farmers to grow ethanol or corn for ethanol? Because they can't sell their shit anywhere else. Why is that? Why is it that America has been content with being bent over the table for the last 40 plus years? Because I don't understand it. And what I really don't understand is even people that I know that are smarter than me that are mad about all of this. And I'm like, are you not? I don't get it. I mean, people that I know that are smarter than me 2, 3, and 4-fold are looking at this going, this is a mistake. And I'm like, what did you expect us to do? We can't keep doing the same things and expecting different results. That is what we have been doing now for so long that nobody knew what to do anymore. Nobody knew how to do anything differently. You've got a businessman who comes in and says, yeah, so this is how we're going to do things. So this is from Matt Margolis. And I know I'm spending a lot of time on these tariffs, but it's because it's what everybody's talking about. So this is why Trump will win the tariff standoff. And we're going to go into some detail here. So I'm going to read the article a bit, ad-lib a little bit as I go. So you guys will notice when I'm reading, because right now it's not set up to where I'm constantly looking at the camera. yet. I'm working on that. So yes, I do read some of the stuff, just so you know, but I also usually try to give you my take on it while I'm doing that. So Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent made it clear in an interview with CNN that the era of trade imbalances is over. And under President Trump, the U.S. will no longer tolerate unfair treatment. In other words, we are tired of being the Tina in the Ike and Tina scenario. We have battered spouse syndrome because the rest of the world has been kicking the shit out of us anytime they wanted to and saying, we're going to take what we want now and we hope you're okay with it. Yes, please, sir. May we have some more? No, we're done with that shit. We're done with it. So, during a discussion with CNN, Caitlin Collins, Bessent confidently explained the administration's position on tariffs and trade policy, signaling that Trump's economic strategy is deliberate and well thought out. Now, again, I don't know about that part because I will admit, I feel like he dropped the ball yesterday in the talk. I don't feel like he gave us enough information about what it is exactly that he was trying to do. And then after, what was it, about 20, 30 minutes, he started talking about other stuff. Now, look, when Trump is working a crowd, he's amazing. And I think that's kind of where he needs to keep his focus. When he's trying to talk about things that I'm not sure he has the ability to articulate well, he should have started calling other people up to explain it, because I feel like he lost some people yesterday. That's just my gut reaction. And this is after doing an hour with Stacy where we were kind of at odds with each other. I promise it wasn't as bad as it sounded. I know a lot of folks were like, holy shit, mom and dad were fighting. I'm like, no, not really. Not really. Anyway, so when pressed on how the administration's policies could impact the auto industry, particularly regarding vehicles made with foreign parts, Bessent was blunt. If half the cars coming into the United States are foreign made, that's hard to turn around overnight, as you know. Collins said, so what would you say to people in the auto industry who are worried about that timeline and how quickly that could shift? Buy American, Bessent said quite bluntly. He also clarified the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement exempts certain vehicles and parts from the new tariffs. Collins attempted to raise concerns from U.S. allies, questioning what the administration would say to countries like South Korea and Japan, which are now facing increased tariffs. Bessent's response was again direct. Well, I would say they've been doing it to us for a long, long time. And if they don't like tariffs, then why do they have them? His answer underscored the administration's stance that America has been on the losing end of trade deals for far too long. Let me translate this to you again. We have been being bent over the proverbial table for 40 plus years, and we're not taking it anymore. As for whether the tariffs should be considered permanent, Bessent took a wait-and-see approach. I think we're going to wait and see how this plays out, he explained, suggesting that adjustments could be made based on how the policy unfolds. Collins also asked about the possibility of retaliation from other countries. Some foreign leaders have hinted at potential countermeasures, while others have opted to observe before making a move. Bessent urged patience. One of the messages that I'd like to get out tonight is everybody sit back, take a deep breath, don't immediately retaliate, and let's see where this goes. Because if you retaliate, and now that gets to an escalation point. When Collins pressed him on whether such escalation could turn into a full-fledged trade war, Bessent dismissed the idea, not a trade war, and that depends on the country, he said, before explaining that history favors the United States in such disputes. Remember that in the history of trade, we are the deficit country. The deficit country has an advantage, he explained. The others are the surplus countries. The surplus countries traditionally always lose any kind of trade escalation. His message to foreign governments was clear. Acting hastily would be a mistake. As a student of economic history or a professor of economic history, I'd advise against it, he said. When Collins sought further clarification, he reinforced the point. I would say that doing anything rash would be unwise. Bessent's remarks leave no doubt that Trump's trade policies are rooted in historical precedent and strategic calculation. While globalists may panic, the Trump administration remains confident that America is in a strong position and that trade partners in history are going to be on our side. Bessent's message was very clear. Trump knows exactly what he's doing. And a lot of people are arguing that point today because, and some of them are even people that I work with that are like, I don't feel like that was a very confident rollout. I don't like some of what he said. I don't like the fact that reciprocal doesn't seem to mean what we thought it was going to mean. And I get it. I understand all of those things. But again, I ask you, if you weren't going to trust the man, why did you vote for him? I'm not saying you got to trust him 100% of the time, but I'm saying he told us this was what he was going to do, and we voted for him. If you didn't want him to do these things, you should have voted for somebody else. It really is that simple. You made a choice. Well, I didn't agree with him with this part. I agreed with him with the other 80%. Then hold on for the 80% that you did agree with and hold your breath and see how this works out for us, because I guarantee you it can't be any worse than where we already were. And that's the point that I keep trying to make to everybody, because Bessent has said this, Trump has said this, other advisors in the cabinet have said this. It would have been really easy for Donald Trump to come in, work on some of the deregulation stuff, work on getting his tax breaks extended and maybe even increase them in certain places, work on the no tax on tips and the no tax on this and the no tax on that, and then just let everything coast. And it would have been great for us for probably about 4 years. And then the bottom would have fell out. Because you guys realize that in Great Britain, they just closed I think they closed their last steel plant. I think it was Britain. Their last one just shuttered. If you guys, I know not everybody's as big of a student of history as I am, but have you not figured out that normally, unless we take some sort of drastic action where Europe goes, normally we're there about 10 years later? How close are we to completely losing our infrastructure, our ability to produce our own goods? And this was a decision that was made a long time ago. I've talked about that on this show and other shows that I've done for even longer than this one, about the fact that at some point, the powers that be in DC decided that we weren't going to be a manufacturing hub anymore. We were instead going to be a service-based economy and become the money changers of the world. And at that time, they started working together to intertwine everybody's economies so there could never be another quote-unquote world war, because everybody thought the first one was going to be the only one, and then there was a second one, and everybody's like, oh, shit, yeah, no, we can't. No. Especially with what it took for us to end the Second World War. Nobody was looking forward to a third one. So they took all kinds of measures to try to make sure that no wars could be fought past any point of a stalemate anymore. Because if one country's economy folds, the rest of the world sort of goes with it. And if you don't believe me, look at what happened to the world economy when first Greece nearly collapsed and then Venezuela collapsed. Everybody was hurt because they're all intertwined and connected. But that's the same thing that Donald Trump is banking on right now. These countries cannot allow their economies to destabilize, or everybody starts getting dragged down. Now, this could, I'm going to be honest, this is my tinfoil hat moment. I'm going to adjust it here for a second. This could be a long con. This could be being used to finish pushing us over the cliff instead of fixing it. And if it happens, it'll happen quickly, and there won't be a damn thing that we can do about it. But I choose to believe that that's not what Donald Trump is trying to do. Because if that's what Donald Trump was trying to do, he would have done it the first time. And if Donald Trump was half the monster the left made him out to be, he never would have left the first time. You can call what happened on January 6th an insurrection. You can say that Donald Trump legally tried to overthrow the government or illegally tried to overthrow the government. But if he was really trying to stay in power, all he would have had to do was find some E4 or E5 with delusions of grandeur and be like, you hold the White House and you're my new guy. We've seen it happen in other places. It didn't happen here. He left before checkout time. No matter how much the left wants to overblow the January 6th situation, especially now with all the pieces that we have of it, that's not what happened. He left before checkout time. This is why I keep telling you, for the people whose hair is on fire, for the people on the left, for the zombie media, for everybody who's saying, this is going to destroy America. America was already dying. And she was dying because of the choices that we made. We came onto the scene. We had no real idea what was going on because most of us were left as feral creatures for most of our lives. And it took us a while to figure out how the world actually worked and how our government actually worked. And then our government wasn't actually our friend. But we're going to keep this conversation going on the other side of the top of the hour break. Hour 1 is in the books, hour 2 to come, and hour 3 thereafter. My name's Rick Robinson. This is my show. While we're on break, like, share, inundate, fly, monkeys, fly. Okay, mostly kidding, but please share the feed. It helps us beat the dreaded algorithms. Who doesn't want to punch Al Gore in the face, rhythms or otherwise? We'll be right back. Hello, friends. We have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy. No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risk their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has. When you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where Halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a Halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. So gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis.
And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you.
We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, and drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome back into the Friday Eve edition of the Rick Robinson Show. For those of you in the East, it's a little bit after 1, so some of you are sad and crying as you trudge off back to work and your lunch break is over. In God's time zone, it's just about lunchtime, so if you're leaving your desk, keep your earbud in, take me to lunch with you, it's all right. For those of you coming back from lunch, keep your earbud in, take me back from lunch. I won't tell anybody if you don't. And on the West Coast, what is it, 10 o'clock there? You assholes probably still in bed, so whatever. All right, and as far as Mountain, sorry, this is Mickey's fault, but according to Mickey, nobody cares about Mountain. So, hey, Mickey, nobody cares. All right, anyway, so welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. So I know I've been on this a lot, but it's because I feel like everybody's just freaking out about it. And this is the vice president's response to the tariff freakouts. None other than J.D. Vance himself was on the Fox News morning show this morning, Fox and Friends. And here we go.
Right, we're being told that J.D. Vance is in position. He's ready to be interviewed by our Lawrence Jones. Lawrence?
Hey, Lawrence. All right, thanks, family. Let's bring in the Vice President and Vice President J.D. Vance. Thanks so much for joining Fox and Friends this morning.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
So the last time we had a one-on-one was in your house. So you weren't Vice President. Yeah, right. you were auditioning. You were the only candidate that said if you didn't get selected, you would be disappointed. Well, you got accepted. So congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you.
Let's talk about some of the issues that matter to the American people.
Sure.
And it's the president's new tariff policy. And when I think about what he got elected on is to bring the cost down for people, but also bring manufacturing back to the country.
That's right.
These are gonna kind of hit each other, right? Explain to us how you get manufacturing here, but also get the cost down for the American people.
Well, if you go back a little bit, Lawrence, remember during the first Trump administration, everybody said that Trump's tariffs were going to be inflationary back then. What actually happened? We had 1.5% inflation. We had the fastest growing economy in a generation, and we had the beginning of a manufacturing renaissance in the United States of America. Then, of course, we had 4 terrible years of the Biden administration. But I think it's useful for all of us to step back and ask ourselves, what has the globalist economy gotten the United States of America? And the answer is fundamentally it's based on 2 principles: incurring a huge amount of debt to buy things that other countries make for us. And to make it a little bit more crystal clear, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture. That is not a recipe for economic prosperity. It's not a recipe for low prices, and it's not a recipe for good jobs in the United States of America. For 40 years, we have gone down that pathway. We've seen closing factories. We've seen rising inflation. We've seen the cost of housing so high that most Americans can't afford to buy a home right now. President Trump is taking this economy in a different direction. He ran on that, he promised it, and now he's delivering. And yes, this is a big change. I'm not going to shy away from it, but we needed a big change, Lawrence. We cannot keep going down the Joe Biden globalist pathway where we have $2 trillion of peacetime debt and deficits. We have manufacturing disappearing. That is not working for Americans. We've got to take this country in a different direction.
Mr. Vice President, there does seem to be a disconnect. You see Wall Street in the media and the markets, and they're freaking out right now.
Yep.
But then I look at those workers that were in the Rose Garden yesterday, and they're celebrating. I think about all the diners that I've done across the country, and all these businesses saying we've lost manufacturing here, and they're celebrating the move. What is the disconnect between the market and the people, those workers that are cheering this on right now?
Well, I think on one hand, frankly, a lot of people have gotten rich from American jobs moving overseas, but American workers have not gotten rich. And frankly, American companies have not gotten wealthy from the increasing growth of foreign competitors manufacturing overseas. As the president says, Lawrence, these foreign companies, they charge us ridiculous tariffs. They engage in a lot of non-tariff practices like currency manipulation. That has been awful for Main Street in the United States of America. It's meant those diners, their customers don't have jobs anymore. It meant those great steel mills, those great auto plants have closed down and their workers have been laid off. What I saw yesterday in the Rose Garden was incredible enthusiasm, because a lot of those workers, they've been working hard for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, young and old, were in the Rose Garden yesterday. They've never had a president who stood up for their jobs and stood up for American prosperity. They finally see something has shifted. There were Democrats out there, Republicans. There were union and non-union workers alike. They know this is a big change, but we need a big change in this country, because what we've done, what we did under the Biden administration, it just wasn't working.
So, Mr. Vice President, I know a lot of MAGA folks, a lot of Americans that are cheering the president on, especially when he takes it to other countries.
Sure.
They feel like we've been screwed for a long time.
Yep.
But I also know people that come from our background, they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Of course.
And they want to do the patriotic duty of taking it to these other countries, but it's going to hit them a little bit. They feel. What can you tell the American people that they just can't afford an extra $3 here and there about the government making up the difference from that? Will costs go up at some point? Will this just be temporary? Are we talking 3 months or 6 months?
Well, we certainly hear, and I appreciate, how I grew up.
I know.
I grew up in a family that often did live paycheck to paycheck, and we know a lot of Americans are worried. So we are fighting very hard to bring prices down. We're going to have the biggest deregulation in the history of this country. We're doing a lot of things and already have done a lot of things to lower the cost of energy. You heard the president mention this yesterday. Eggs, when we came in, were at a 10-year high, and all of a sudden they've dropped 60% just in the 2 months of the Trump administration. What I'd ask folks to appreciate here is that we are not going to fix things overnight. Yeah. Joe Biden left us, this is not an exaggeration, Lawrence, with the largest peacetime debt and deficit in the history of the United States of America, with sky-high interest rates. You don't fix that stuff overnight. We know people are struggling. We're fighting as quickly as we can to fix what was left to us, but it's not going to happen immediately. But we really do believe that if we pursue the right deregulation, we pursue those energy cost-reducing policies, yes, people are going to see it in their pocketbook. They're also going to benefit from the fact that foreign countries can't take advantage of us anymore. That means their jobs are going to be more secure.
I don't think you can talk about this, the tariffs, and not talk about the tax cuts as well that we're expecting. Is this to offset some of the cuts that we plan on expecting? Will this be a permanent measure, or are we thinking when it comes to the scoring of this bill, we're going to be able to get cuts as a result of this?
I wouldn't think of tax cuts as a way to offset the tariffs. Here's the way that I think about it is, again, for 40 years, we've had an economy that rewards people who ship American jobs overseas and raises taxes on American workers, and we're flipping that on its head. We're going to cut taxes for American workers and for American companies that build here. We're going to make it harder to ship American jobs overseas. It's a total shift in the way that we've done economic policy in the United States of America, but it was necessary. So, yeah, we're going to cut your taxes. You're going to have more money in your pocket, and that's, of course, going to help you deal with the cost of inflation. But that's not about offsetting the tariffs. They work together. We want to penalize people for shipping our jobs overseas. We want to reward hardworking Americans. It's all part of the same policy.
I want to get to some other news because there were some reports that came out that Elon Musk is leaving. Now, of course, the president had already said he was only going to be here for a temporary basis.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Doge will continue after Elon Musk. Will he still be an advisor to you and the president? I know y'all have a great relationship. Tell us about it.
Well, first of all, that report I saw was total fake news. Yeah. Elon came in and we said, we need you to make government more efficient. We need you to shrink the incredible, vast bureaucracy that thwarts the will of the American people, but also costs way too much money. And we said that's going to take about 6 months. And that's what Elon signed up for. But of course, he's going to continue to be an advisor. And by the way, the work of Doge is not even close to done. The work of Elon is not even close to done. You look at all of the fraudulent grants that they found. You look at people who are 150 years old, who are fraudulently collecting Social Security payments. You see our Social Security system, 40% of the people who are calling in are actually committing fraud. That means the 60% who need their Social Security checks are waiting in line. Doge has got a lot of work to do. And yeah, that work's going to continue after Elon leaves, but fundamentally, Elon is going to remain a friend and an advisor of both me and the president, and he's done a lot of good things. People don't realize how vast and uncontrolled the bureaucracy was. We've started to chip away at it, but there's a lot of work to do. It's not going to happen all in 6 months. It's going to take a long and committed effort.
Tell us about the news when it comes to TikTok. It looks like the president is going to announce maybe today some proposal. Maybe America owns 50% of TikTok. A private investor will own the other part. Is that going to happen today?
So I don't want to get ahead of any presidential announcements here, but what I've said is we've been working very hard, me and the president, the entire team, to really accomplish two things. First of all, you want to make sure that the TikTok app in the United States is not spying on people. Right. That's good for national security. You also want to give people access to this incredible platform, which, as we know.
Okay, we're going to stop that for now because I plan on talking about this part a little more in hour 3. So I'm going to stay on the tariff topic for now because there's things that are happening that people are just now starting to talk about. I tried to talk about this with Stacey a little bit last night, and this is what I mean by America being, the bargaining powerhouse when it comes to trade because we buy everybody's shit. So a couple big things. One, this just came onto my radar. I was actually reading through it right about the same time that Raptor chimed in, so we'll get to that in a second. But one of the things that I heard last night, and I thought this was absolutely amazing, is that Walmart is already standing up to China because, of course, China has, announced these retaliatory tariffs. And I'm like, dude, you're already tariffing the shit out of us. So what else are you going to be able to do? And then Walmart, after China made this announcement, well, not only do you have this problem, but we're not paying those tariffs. The ones that are going to hit us for your products, if we decide to continue to sell them, you're going to pay that. We're not eating the cost loss. We're not passing it on to our consumers. You're going to pay it. And this is what I'm talking about. When you force people into a position where they have to decide which side they're on, then eventually they're going to side with the side that ensures their own self-preservation. This is what part of what Donald Trump was talking about. Now, this isn't the only huge deal on this. And this just came across my feed earlier today. In response to Trump's tariff program, Ford just cut its prices in response to that. And here's the deal on all of that. So Ford's response to Trump administration's new 25% tariff on imported cars is lower prices. The automaker has announced that it is extending its discounted employee pricing program to all customers who place an order on a new vehicle or purchase one from dealer inventory through June 2nd. The deal applies to the 2024 and 2025 Ford Mustang, the Ford Escape, Bronco Sport, F-150, F-150 Lightning, Mustang Mach-E, Maverick, Ranger, Transit, and E-Transit, along with the Lincoln Corsair and the Nautilus 2024 Super Duty Ford pickups, not chassis cabs. Expeditions and Lincoln Navigators are also included, as are the 2025 Ford Explorer and Lincoln Aviator. The Ford F-150 Raptor, the Bronco Raptor, Mustang Dark Horse, and Mustang GTD are excluded from the offer. The size of the discount varies by vehicle, but brings the MSRP below the dealer invoice price. This is what they're calling From America for America program. It is a testament to our commitment in assembling where we sell. It's a way for us to give back to the communities that have supported us for generations. Ford Director of U.S. Sales and Dealer Relations, Rob Caffey, said, I think it's Caffey, said in an online post on the program. Ford is better isolated against the immediate effects of the tariffs than some automakers, as approximately 80% of the vehicles it sells domestically are assembled in the U.S. That puts it second only to Tesla, which builds 100% of its vehicles it sells in the U.S. locally. However, additional tariffs on major components, including engines and electrical systems, are scheduled to be implemented in May that will affect production cost of many U.S.-built vehicles across all brands. So things are already working. I mean, Ontario's backing down. Scheinbaum has said we're not really going to do retaliatory tariffs, but we're going to figure out what we're going to do next. Britain is working on trying to shore up relations with us and figure out how to avoid the tariffs. Israel has already dropped their tariffs completely. Whether Trump immediately drops ours or waits to see what's going to happen with that, I don't really know, because the problem that we have, and this is one of the things that I tried to explain to everybody with the whole, well, it's reciprocal. That mean, and I get it. That's what we all bought into, because that's what all the talking heads were telling us. But the problem with that idea is it doesn't work in the way Trump intended. Because if we're really trying to do everything we can to bring manufacturing back to America, because it is in fact a national security risk for us to be reliant on other countries, then we have to be able to do something to incentivize them to be able to come here. So some of these tariffs are probably going to stay in place unless or until they start building factories here. Because once they're producing goods here, then of course those goods are going to be exempted from the tariffs. And of course they will sell like fucking wildfire here. Because it's Americans are consumers. We have been born and bred into consumerism. Whether you agree with that or not, whether you like it or not, that's not a discussion for today. What I'm saying is this is going to feed everything that we would expect it to feed if it works. And as far as whether it's going to work or not, only time is going to tell us for sure. I do know that in the short term, everybody's doing everything that they can to avoid sparking a trade war with us, except for China. And let's not forget, this would be an escalation of a trade war that we didn't start if it happens. I think those are some of the language points that need to start shifting. We didn't start any of these trade wars. We've been involved in trade wars for over 40 years. 40 years. And administration after administration after administration chose to do nothing because it was for the global good. I don't give a fuck about the global good if Americans are starving. I love the fact that we are prosperous enough to be able to help people when they need it. But there becomes the same thing is true everywhere. And I don't know why this doesn't resonate well with the humanists, because I don't understand why it doesn't. Because according to them, we are no different than any other mammal or any other creature on the planet. And we have seen what happens when man intervenes to feed and take care of creatures that are typically wild. Eventually, they become dependent upon us, and without us, they die. What do you think's been happening around the world? Why do you think everybody's freaking out now that we're getting out of the let's save everybody but ourselves business? Oh no, I understand that it's not I understand that it's not a perfect scenario, but I'm saying the fact that instead of trying to pass the cost along to the consumers like everybody says they're trying to do, what they're doing is cutting the cost so that by the time the tariffs kick in, if any are available, the price remains about the same. So I understand everything that everybody's saying, and I'm not saying this is a perfect scenario. But again, We had a choice. The patient was on the table. We can either go back to palliative care, because that's what we've been doing. That's what Europe is doing right now. Europe is slowly controlling and trying to slow down their descent into nothingness. So they have chosen palliative care. For the longest time, so did we. We're like, let's just make things as easy as possible as we transition into this new world where we're going to have centralized everything, whether Americans like it or not, because we're the global elites and we fucking said so. Guess what? We're not fucking listening to you anymore. We don't care what it is that you think you want. We don't care what it is that you think you deserve. And we're tired of it. Why do you think populism is starting to take off every fucking where? Because everybody is starting to understand that we have been sold down the river. You guys realize Germany is completely non-industrial now? Britain's not that far behind. Because they've been moving everything to China. What do you think we've been doing for the last 40 years? You guys realize that in 1970, at the peak of our manufacturing, when our population was like half of what it is right now, there were like 20 million manufacturing jobs in this country. 20 million. We're now down to 12.5 million is one of the last numbers that I saw. With a population 3 and 4 times as big as it was in 1970, that is a stark drop. That's the part that nobody wants to take into account. Well, dropping from 20% manufacturer, 20 million manufacturing jobs down to like, I think it was 12.5, might have been 15.2. I might be flipping the numbers around, just being honest. But that's not that much of a drop. I mean, if it's 15, it sounds better, but it's really, when you take into account population growth, etc., it's insane. And again, it's a national security risk. We saw this over and over and over again during COVID. We didn't have the ability to get the things that we needed for our basic survival. Yeah, I read about that after you said something in one of the show chats last night, Raptor, that China is about to close the last foundry in the UK. I wonder why that is. Why does China want everybody dependent upon them? Because they saw what we did after World War II. And let's face it, we weren't very nice to China. We want to talk about how we're the big, bright, shining light, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. But our CIA has done some shady shit around the world. They love to use drugs to try to destabilize folks. And they've been doing it for forever because it works. We are not always the white hats in the scenario. We try to tell everybody we are. We try to act like we are. But we're not always the white hats in the scenario. All right, so I've got a clip from Besant that we're going to play real quick before we go to break. I promise I'm going to try to get out of this tariff topic eventually. It's just, I feel like this is kind of where we need to live right now because everybody's just freaking out. And I'm trying to stop the panic. So we're going to play this clip, then we're going to take a break. If you need to, we'll be gone for about 4 minutes once we do take the break. So grab your brown paper bag, breathe into it for a while. I promise everything's going to be okay eventually. I can't promise that it's not going to be a bumpy ride, but I promise that from what I'm starting to understand of all this stuff and how we're starting to see the businesses react to these things, which is the exact opposite of how everybody told us they were going to, I think we're going to be okay. So, but anyway, let me get this queued up for you guys.
One of the reasons I came out from behind my desk and asked President Trump if I could join the campaign, then when he asked me to be in the cabinet, was because I was so alarmed by this high level of government spending. We've never seen anything like this. Highest level ever when we weren't in a war or in a recession. So the Biden administration relied on this blowout spending, back to the mainstream media. No one criticized it when they were doing it because it was for the great and the good. It was for green programs. It was for this. It was for overseas engagement. Now what we're trying to do is do a course correction where we bring down the government, we deleverage the government and re-lever the private sector. And we're going to do that by cutting spending, the lowering interest. We'll get a natural lowering of interest rates. And then on the other side, as we re-lever the private sector, we plan to deregulate the banking system, which was one of the things I talked about at the Economic Club of New York last week. So as we allow the banking, as we unshackle a regulated banking system, they can lend to the private sector, and especially Main Street, which has been overlooked. So small regional banks, small banks, community banks, and so as the government comes down, the private sector will go up. Government will shed excess labor, and there's plenty of it, and then the private sector will pick it up.
All right. So the reason I wanted to go out to this with this on the break is because this is another part of the Trump program that nobody's really talking about. We should be talking about the fact that he's attacking every facet of everything that has been wrong with our country in the last 40 years, pretty much all at once, and has done a masterful job of trying to do it within the last 70 days. Have there been some missteps? Yes. The Epstein list is one of them. I'm still mad about that. Finding out that there's apparently still more classified documents with the JFK files and everything else. I'm still not really that happy about that. But you know what? These are things that should be addressed after we fixed everything else, if I'm being completely honest. Because it doesn't matter how much truth we know if we're still careening towards a cliff. And let's face it, we are still careening towards a fiscal cliff, whether anybody wants to tell you that or not. But that's just it. If we start looking at every approach that they're taking, deregulation, starting to make it possible for people to buy American products again without feeling like and that's the thing. Chinese crap is cheap. That's why I laugh at this Temu stuff, because everybody sends me these things all the time. You need to do this so I can get a $20 bonus through Temu. You know what? I've used Temu one time and I will never use it again. Never, because it's a bunch of cheap crap and half of it broke within the first 2 days that I had it. Now, granted, I got a lot of stuff for what wound up being like $30. But is it really worth it if it doesn't last? So, yeah, we're talking about deregulation. We're talking about tax cuts. We're talking about bringing businesses back to America. We're talking about decoupling our money-making engine from the public sector and plugging it back into the private sector. Why this hurts as much as we're doing it is because we've waited so long. We've kicked the can down the road so far that instead of being able to do these things one step at a time, within maybe 1 year of an administration, then moving on to the next part of it and doing that again, and then again, and then again, when it would have been a lot less painful if we'd have done this 20 years ago instead of waiting 40. We are simply having to do everything all at once because America has cancer. We're trying to excise the cancer. It'll be up to you guys whether or not we get to excise the cancer or not. I'm just being honest. You guys are the deciding factor here. Not me, not the talking heads. You guys decide how long we put up with this. If we falter now, America won't be here for much longer. And I believe that with every fiber of my being, or I wouldn't be saying it. All right, we are up against a break. We've got to take it. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Rick Robinson Show.
Hollywood House Lift. I'm excited to be working with new clients.
I'm not getting rid of that.
I hope I never see you both again.
Yeah. An all-new season.
Those have to go. That has to go.
From, oh, wow.
It's been an actual nightmare.
To, oh, wow.
This is such an upgrade.
With celebrities like Josh Duhamel, Christina Ricci, and Gina Rodriguez. Dazzle me, Jeff.
It looks like Chuck E. Cheese.
Stream an all-new season of Hollywood House Lift with Jeff Lewis. Now streaming on Freevee.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
I'm Jordan Klinger, an attorney at McIntyre Law. The decision to hire an attorney after you've been injured is important. The decision on who to hire is even more important. At McIntyre Law, we will settle a case if the offer to our client is fair. Partial justice is no justice at all. At McIntyre Law, we are committed to obtaining full justice for our clients. Contact McIntyre Law at 917-5200 or visit us at mcintyrelaw.com.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the third time jump-starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis.
And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors. We're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you, see you, see you.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the abuse. All my friends are heathens, take it slow.
Welcome back into the Almost Friday edition of the Rick Robinson Show. Hope everybody's having a great Thursday. For those of you that are spending part of your workday with me, thank you very much for doing so. This show, I do have to warn you, this show is not usually suitable for work, so I hope you've got earbuds in, or I hope if you're hanging out in a break room somewhere, because I know lots of you do, that your friends are okay with hearing me sometimes getting rather cranky, especially lately. Okay, so I keep trying to put this topic to bed. I really do, because we spent like an hour and 40 minutes. I know we've bounced around a little bit, but we're still mainly focusing on the tariffs. I think there's one more thing about this that I really want to cover, because there's lots of folks in what would have become the New World Order if not for Donald Trump's pesky meddling kids. Here's how the world is reacting to Trump's tariff announcement, and they aren't happy. President Donald Trump sent a wave of disruption through the globe on Wednesday when he announced sweeping tariffs against several nations. During his announcement, the president argued that other countries have maintained hefty tariffs on American goods while expecting the U.S. to keep lower duties on imports. He stated that he would impose reciprocal tariffs on other countries, explaining they do it to us, we do it to them. The government of the affected nation, the governments of the affected nations aren't happy though about this particular development, and it's as could and should have been expected. Several have already cried foul, speaking out against the new tariffs. China vowed to use retaliatory measures against you pesky Americans. I can't do a Chinese accent very well. I'm working on it though. China said Thursday that it firmly opposed the tariffs and would take necessary measures to protect its interests. You stupid Americans. Me hate you a long time. The U.S., under the guise of reciprocity, has imposed tariffs on products from multiple countries, including China, which seriously violates WTO, WTF, nobody cares, bro, rules and undermines the rules-based multilateral trading system, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Jinkun said in a briefing in Beijing. Unlike with past tariffs, when smartphones and other electronics were exempt, the latest levies appears to affect them as well, said Tianxin Zhu, a senior China economist at the Economist Intelligence Unit, a financial forecasting service. No product made in China is safe, Tianxin said. The tariffs will be a big blow to China's low-cost manufacturers, particularly at a time when Chinese President Xi Jinping is struggling to boost domestic demand, he added. You guys don't think maybe this is part of the reason why Donald Trump's doing all this right now? He knows how weak China is from COVID. They've tried to hide it from the rest of the world, but trust me, the world leaders know. And I'm sorry. After what we know about Wuhan, I think we should tariff China out of existence. I don't know why China isn't facing sanctions for what we know now, other than the fact that we're trying not to plunge the world into global fucking darkness because all of our economies are intertwined. But they use that to their advantage. Now, again, I'm not saying we're always the white hats, but the last time I checked, the American alphabet soup agencies didn't try to release a plague on the world. Just pointing that out. I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, there's been some weird shit we've done throughout history. Like, the same time that they were making weed illegal, the CIA was running a brothel in Nevada that was dosing people with LSD. I'm not saying that our country doesn't have dirty hands. I'm saying there are some things that even I consider a bridge too far. And what China did to us in 2020 is unforgivable, in my opinion. And I don't think we've been doing enough about that. So, no, this doesn't hurt my feelings at all. If anything, I don't think we've gone far enough. Europe, of course, has also signaled that it would employ countermeasures against Trump's tariffs. Reminder and remember, we didn't start this trade war. The European Union called Trump's actions a major blow to the world economy. CNN reported Ursula von der Leyen, who heads the EU's executive arm, said on Thursday that she deeply regrets this choice. Well, we deeply regret being bent over the fucking table for the last 40 years. So in the words of none other than John fucking McClane, welcome to the party, pal, because now it's your turn. We've had train run on us for 40 years. It's time to pivot. I know some of you are like, damn it, stop. It'll be all right in a minute. All businesses, big and small, will suffer from day one, from big uncertainty to the disruption of supply chains to burdensome bureaucracy. The cost of doing business with the United States will drastically increase. Well, yeah, didn't have an issue when the cost of us doing business with you was drastically increased. You didn't have an issue with the fact that there are almost no, if not any, as far as I've ever been able to find, American cars anywhere on the road in Europe because of all the tariffs and all of the VAT taxes and everything else you put on all of our shit. So I'm sorry if I'm not wringing my hands with you now that we're finally looking at you going, you guys don't seem to understand. We are the biggest consumer of products on the planet. And if you want to do business with us, you're going to do it on our terms. I don't know why that's such a problem. I really don't. I mean, I get it. I know masculinity is bad now. Everything about being strong and standing up for yourself is toxic. I understand that. You're just supposed to take the knee and let men join women's sports and do all of these damn things that everybody knows is counterproductive to our very existence, our society, and everything this country stands for. But that's what we've been told to do for the last 40 years. You know what? A lot of us didn't notice how bad it was until it was almost too late. And again, you've woken up a bunch of people that really just wanted to be left the fuck alone. And I'm sorry, at this point, even if it's us playing the role of Samson in the temple, I'm kind of okay with that right now. Anyway, sorry. So Leyen further stated that the EU is already finalizing the first package of countermeasures in response to tariffs on steel, and we are now preparing for further countermeasures to protect our interests and our businesses if negotiation fails. So negotiation failed with us over and over and over again. Y'all kept expecting us to take it. Sweden has not yet indicated whether it will retaliate, but Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson in a post on X said the nation will continue to stand up for free trade and international cooperation. How is it free trade? Free trade implies no barriers. Free trade implies no tariffs. Free trade implies no non-tariff barriers. And we have all of those things. This is not free trade. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese told reporters that Trump's tariffs were not expected, but that they are totally unwarranted. Are they really, though? Are they really? Trump referred to reciprocal tariffs. A reciprocal tariff would be 0, not 10%. The admin's tariffs have no basis in logic, and they go against the basis of our two nations' partnerships. A French government spokesperson claimed Trump wants to be master of the world and that the tariffs would be a hard blow for European nations. Switzerland has also responded to the tariffs. Karen Keller-Sutter, president of the Swiss Federation, stated that the council will quickly determine the next steps and that adherence to international law and free trade remain core values. Again, you guys have a really fucked up definition of free trade. Just saying. Just saying. All right. So let me see if we can get away from this topic because everything that I'm pulling up is about this today. And again, I'm just trying to give everybody as much information as I have. Because again, I'm not a tariff expert. I'm not a trade expert. What I do know, and I know I've been saying this a lot, we can't keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting things to turn out differently. That is, in fact, one of the very definitions of insanity. And we've been doing it for years. All right, so you guys have heard about the dude making the threats against ICE, and saying if ICE is coming to harass you and your family, you should just shoot them on sight. This is from our friends at Blaze Media. Julio Rosas. Feds arrest radical leftists for making threats against ICE officers and DHS. HSI and Robert King's terrorist. I guess it's not the same guy. So wait, this is somebody else doing it. I'm sorry. I thought it was the same guy. HSI said Robert King's terroristic threats against ICE and DHS were alarming. Agents from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Homeland Security Investigations arrested a U.S. citizen after he allegedly posted detailed death threats online against ICE agents and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Threats against ICE and other federal agents from radical leftists have risen in recent months as the Trump administration does everything in its power to carry out mass deportations now that the border crisis is over. In its announcement, the HSI Dallas field office said Robert King's terroristic threats against ICE agents and Noem were alarming because they included intentions to open fire if he saw agents in his neighborhood. Maybe it is the same guy. I don't know. We gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses. And this is from HSI Dallas. Robert King, a U.S. citizen, was recently taken into custody in McKinney, Texas, for making terroristic threats against ICE agents and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. King's alarming social media post included intentions to open fire if agents are seen in his neighborhood. In response to another online video where the TikTok user appeared to make a self-defense case for shooting ICE agents, Noem vowed, I think that's the one I was thinking of, that clear and direct threats against law enforcement will not be tolerated. If you threaten or attempt to harm a law enforcement officer, we will find you and prosecute you. We have a very particular set of skills. To the fullest extent of the law. The threats against federal immigration agents have risen after the detainment of several anti-Israel college students who are in the United States on student visas or green cards. The Trump administration said foreign nationals do not have the right to cause disruptions or voice support for terrorist organizations in the United States while a guest of the nation. Videos of the students' arrests has resulted in extreme backlash online from far-left activists. One former Cornell University student, Mamoudou Tayal, sued the Trump administration in an attempt to stop his deportation after his visa was revoked and then decided to self-deport when its judge decided not to pause the deportation. Saul, a dual citizen of the United Kingdom and Gambia, openly called for the destruction of the United States empire before he was given a student visa to study at Cornell, according to screenshots of his social media messages. We gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses. If we've given you a visa and then you decide to do that, we're going to take it away. That was a direct quote from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. So, yeah, I know a lot of people are like, that's free speech, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Again, I submit to you that while God gives everybody those particular rights, do they apply to non-citizens is my question. Especially the atheist non-citizens. Those are the ones that make me... I love warping their brains because I'm like, so wait a minute. You believe you have the same rights as you and me when I believe my rights were given to me by God. Where the hell do you get yours from? It's funny how they never really have... The government, no. That's the antithesis of everything our Constitution stands for. But thanks for playing, Skippy. All right, so let's see. We are down to about 9 minutes. I'm sure we can probably find some other trouble to get into real quick. All right. So this was not on my topic list for the day, but this one has my curiosity peak, so I'm calling an audible. This is from Rick Moran over at PJ Media. Science begins to unlock the mystery of how near-death experiences arise in the brain. 5 years ago, last Sunday evening, I was getting ready for bed when I stopped breathing. I experienced a massive heart attack or a myocardial infarction. Doctors referred to this kind of heart attack as a widowmaker. On the way to the hospital, I was in and out of consciousness. The paramedics tried to shock my heart back into rhythm. Keep in mind, this is the author of this piece, not me. Nobody start panicking. Just saying, in case anybody's tuning in late, I'm reading a piece. Last thing I need is a text from my family going, did you just talk about having a heart attack on the air? No, I'm talking about somebody else. Okay. So on the way to the hospital, I was in and out of consciousness. The paramedics tried to shock my heart back into rhythm. That's when my heart stopped beating for the first time. After getting my heart beating again, the doctors wanted Sue to sign a DNR order. Do not resuscitate. It's a good thing she refused because after a helicopter ride to one of the best cardiac units in the Midwest, I survived the night. I don't remember the next 3 days, but I'm told that my heart stopped 2 more times. I woke up in restraints because I kept ripping the breathing tube out of my lungs. I can't blame him there. That would drive me insane. Then they moved me to the less critical cardiac care wing of the hospital where I promptly suffered yet another heart attack. This time, I had what might have been either a dream or an NDE, otherwise known as a near-death experience. I remember flashes of it, but I distinctly remember asking if I was dead and an annoyed doctor saying, "Of course you're not dead." Nurses and orderlies were bustling about, but no one was paying attention to me. While recovering for the next 10 days in the hospital, I tried to make sense of what I experienced. I was usually disappointed that I didn't experience a bright light or see a familiar face to lead me into it. I had no sense of floating or of looking down on the scene of my death. This is what many survivors of what they call NDEs, otherwise known as near-death experiences, report seeing and experiencing. In fact, the phenomenon is one of the had a squirrel moment. It is one of the great mysteries of science and metaphysics, and scientists have just begun to try and unlock the mystery surrounding near-death experiences. For far too long, scientists scoffed at the notion of near-death experiences being anything more than the random firing of neurons. When the brain begins to die, or because the experience has been so well documented and has become part of the culture that near-death survivors are reporting on myths they heard before their experience. As scientists begin to better understand the human brain and how it works, theories about how NDEs arise in the brain are receiving serious attention. Researchers have put forward one of the first comprehensive models outlining the conditions that may give rise to the vivid mental phenomena that some people experience as they near death, according to Scientific American. Don't judge me. That's become a Pavlovian response. Anytime I hear the word phenomena, that song starts playing in my head. I'm just saying. An incredible 5 to 10% of the general population reports memories of an NDE. Oftentimes, people's recollections are similar, perceiving separation from the body and viewing it from above, passing through a tunnel and seeing a light, encouraging deceased loved ones or compassionate entities and beings, and being overcome by ineffable wisdom and a feeling of profound peacefulness. Many people describe these memories in crisp detail and say they felt more real than real. How a person's faltering consciousness produces such fantastical experiences is unknown, but scientists have been piecing together hypotheses constructed from interviews with survivors, studies in animals, and experiments in which people were given certain psychedelic drugs. Ooh, where do I sign up for one of those? Now, one of the government research groups investigating NDEs has published what it describes as the first comprehensive neuroscientific model for the phenomena. The scientists involved in creating the model first reviewed the studies and literature and everything that they could find, ranging from neuroscientific investigations to spiritual perspectives. They found that people with certain predispositions, including those who daydream a lot and those whose rapid eye movement sleep bleeds into wakefulness, are more likely to experience NDEs. That explains a few things because I've actually had one of those a couple of times. NDEs themselves are triggered by precipitating events such as a cardiac arrest that causes a cascade of physiological stress. The authors propose that certain networks of neurons go into overdrive to produce high levels of specific neurotransmitters in the drastically altered brain environment. The researchers investigated several of those systems and hypothesized ways that they may contribute to distinct mental experiences as the person approaches death. It's more than neurons firing willy-nilly to achieve an NDE. Specific neurotransmitters affecting memory, fight or flight, and focus all contribute to the overall effect of the brain to produce an NDE. Other brain chemicals like serotonin, which regulates mood, and endorphins, which give us feelings of euphoria, are also released. This might explain the feelings and visions of an NDE, but why the eerie unanimity of the experience across all races and cultures? And that's the part that I'm going to pause on right here before we get ready to take the break, is the thing that everybody seems to understand. One of the first hypotheses that was actually discussed in this article is everybody's just recalling whatever myth they were exposed to as far as the creation myth as a child. The problem is not all of those quote unquote creation myths in religion have the same outcomes. So how is it that no matter where you're born, what culture you're part of, anybody that has an NDE describes the same exact experience? The feeling of being at peace, the feeling of being comforted, a family member or some other peaceful entity helping them transition into a tunnel of white light before eventually they find themselves back in their body. This describes really only one faith, which I think is why so many scientists scoffed for as long as they did. But this goes back to everything that I've ever tried to explain. For everybody that I know that has been heavily into physics and all of those things and all the maths and all the certainties that those maths impose, there comes a time when physicists have no explanation for how we got here. There comes a time when they have no explanation of how the Big Bang occurred. What triggered it? What was here before it? Where did it come from? Nobody has any answers to that question. And whether you believe in the same God that I do, the simple fact of the matter is something had to have initiated the process. Something cannot come from nothing. It is scientifically impossible. So if something did in fact burst forth from nothing, and it is scientifically impossible and beyond reason for that to occur, there must have been some sort of event that caused the impossible to happen. I firmly believe that it is exactly as portrayed in the Bible. I don't believe the timelines. I'm going to be completely honest. The idea that the earth and everything around us was created in 7,000 years, I don't necessarily believe that. I think that was people that had no real grasp of how long things actually were, or trying to put it into sense for people that they were trying to teach the oral histories to, because everybody forgets this all started as an oral history, which means in a lot of ways, this is the longest running version of telephone ever. And I would like to remind everybody before we take the break that we do in fact see through a glass darkly. So I think the entire truth, whatever it may be, we don't know yet. And I don't know when or if we will. But I do find it interesting that everyone that has ever reported an NDE has had very similar experiences. The part that this article doesn't touch on is there are also people who don't have a faith who have reported a drastically different NDE experience that actually corresponds to the other side of the argument. But we'll save that discussion for another day. We are up against a hard break. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. We're going to get back into the news and events of the day as we help you usher in your weekend. We are at the day before. So for those of you working towards the weekend, you are nearly there. It'll be Friday before you know it. Stay tuned.
Come take my walk this road together through the storm. Whatever weather, cold or warm, letting you know that you're not alone.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot. I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero. I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risked their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has. When you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was established to secure these rights and for the good that comes from exercising them well. This is why the founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire. Hillsdale College, pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844.
Ready to learn some medieval combat, kiddo?
You bet, Dad. Let's do this.
You know, spending quality time with your kids is important, but finding a fun and safe way to do it can really be a challenge. That's where halberds come in. Halberds are the perfect way to bond with your kid while teaching them about history and physical fitness. Plus, they're a blast to play with. So next time you're looking for some family fun activity, grab a halberd and get ready to make some memories.
Come on, Dad. Round 2.
Halberds, bringing families together one medieval battle at a time. This commercial brought to you by the KLRNradio.com Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Hours 1 and 2 are in the books. Hour 3 is underway, and it is almost Friday. For those of you working for the weekend, that's right. This is the Thursday, otherwise known as the Friday Eve edition of the Rick Robinson Show. Again, just as a quick reminder, we'll be back with programming later tonight. It looks like the Rush Hour Renegade, I think was the name of the show, is still going to be remaining on hiatus for a time. I've reached out to him to see what's going on, but we're trying to get that one back online, assuming he still wants to do the show. So later tonight, come back at 8:30 p.m. Eastern for the Culture Shift with Brad with the good hair and our local Amish guy, and then hang out for Jen and Rick after that. And then BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon is again our closing act. Glad he's back. He's been on a bit of a vacation, but he made his triumphant return yesterday and knocked it out of the park. If you missed it last night with us, you can always catch it on SHR Media's YouTube and or Rumble channel while we have a break in our programming today. Now, let's see what other kind of trouble we can get into today. There was something specifically I was looking at, and then I lost it, so bear with me for just a moment. How can you lose what you've never had? That's beside the point. Shut up. Ooh, whoa. This was not on my radar. So this happened in North Dakota, apparently. So there's a North Dakota mayor that has resigned. Because apparently he got caught sending smexy videos to a city attorney. So I do take responsibility for this mistake, said the mayor who pulled an Anthony Weiner. The mayor of the fourth largest city in North Dakota has resigned after he reportedly sent an explicit video to the city attorney by accident. Just after 3 p.m. on Tuesday, Tom Ross tendered his resignation. Is any relation to Bob Ross? And if so, he probably should have, been a little more mellow. Just saying. Tendered his resignation as mayor of Minot, a city of some 47,000 residents, about 50 miles south of the Canadian border, perhaps best known for its Air Force base. His resignation followed an investigation into a video he apparently sent to city attorney Stephanie Stahlheim several months ago. But it was by accident, y'all. On the morning of January 14th, Ross reportedly called Stahlheim to inform her that an officer with the Minot Police Department had died from suicide just 11 minutes after that phone call. Ross apparently texted Stahlheim a message with a video attached. Almost immediately after sending the video, Ross called Stahlheim again, this time admitting that he had accidentally sent her a smexy video meant for his girlfriend. According to a report from the city, Ross then asked Stahlheim not to view the video and instead to delete it and to keep the mishap between the two of them. And that apparently didn't happen. At the time, Stahlheim had Monica Porterfield, a city HR employee, with her. Stahlheim asked Porterfield to delete the message, but in her attempts to delete it, Porterfield accidentally played the footage. It reportedly contained video of... okay, I think yeah. No, we're not. I'm not even reading those words. 2 weeks later, Stahlheim filed a sexual harassment complaint against Ross. In the complaint, she asked for a formal apology and that Ross consider resigning. When investigators spoke with Ross, he apparently copped to the mistake he made, the amateur video during his lunch break, but fired it off to the wrong recipient when searching his contacts. Where Stahlheim was stored under C for city attorney, the city report indicated his paramour's name also likewise begins with a C. The report noted that Ross conducted public business on his private cell phone. On Tuesday, the city released a redacted version of the report, which claimed that Ross directly caused Stahlheim's inability to work in an environment free from unreasonable sexual harassment and created an offensive work environment. Ross resigned shortly thereafter. I'm sorry, honey. It wasn't really harassment because harassment nothing to me. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That's the married man's definition of harassment when he gets caught. Never mind. I do take responsibility for this mistake. I tried to immediately correct it and was unable, Ross said in a statement. According to the New York Post, the decision I made falls in line with all my work on behalf of the city of Minot. I put my heart and soul into this community. Ross joined the Minot City Council in 2020 and became mayor in 2022. For the time being, Council President Mark Janster will serve as acting mayor. Residents will now have about 2 weeks to petition for a special mayoral election. If no such petition materializes, the city council will appoint a permanent replacement to serve out Ross's term. I think Minot is going to be fine, and I think we have a great group of employees. We have very hardworking city council members, and I think we're going to pull through this just fine, Janster said in a statement. Sexting shenanigans with smexy videos. Did not have that on my bingo card for today's news cycle, but here we are anyway. Just saying. Uh-oh. So we are in the final hour, and I usually try to do these a little more on Thursdays and Fridays. It's happy story time. This is again from our friends at Blaze Media. Joseph McKinnon, Fauci's wife, vax peddling buddies get the boot at NIH. The Trump administration is cleaning house, giving the boot to the old guard of America's health regime. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. indicated last week that his department would downsize its workforce from 82,000 to 62,000 employees as part of a broader overhaul intended to maximize efficiency while saving taxpayer money. Senior officials at the National Institute of Health, a subordinate agency, were evidently not immune to this shakeup. Insiders told Politico that Christine Grady, the wife of former National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases Director Anthony Fauci, otherwise known as the Leprechaun of the Potomac, was ousted Tuesday from her role as senior investigator at the NIH Clinical Center's Department of Bioethics. of bioethics. Oh my God. Kennedy allegedly signed off on the termination of Grady, who spearheaded research into the ethics of the U.S. pandemic response. How about the ethics of the U.S. pandemic cause? Just saying. Fauci allies Clifford Lane, Deputy Director for Clinical Research and Special Projects at NIAID, and Emily Eberling, a Director of the NIAID Division of Microbiology and Infectious Diseases, were reportedly also tossed out on their asses. And yes, I'm editorializing a little bit here. This is not the place. Several institute directors, including Fauci ally Jean Marazzo, the NIAID director, who claimed during the pandemic that wearing a mask is very effective and told people not to gather in groups, including at gyms, bars, and churches, were among the officials linked to the government's development and rollout of the COVID-19 vaccines who were offered reassignments. So a copy of the agency's email to directors obtained by Nature states HHS proposes to reassign you as part of a broader effort to strengthen the department and more effectively promote the health of the American people. The letter offered Washington, D.C. and Atlanta area-based directors the option of working in Alaska, Montana, and Oklahoma, supposedly an inducement to quit, noting this underserved community deserves better, the highest quality of service, and HHS needs individuals like you to deliver that service. Whether they were fired or effectively resigned rather than transferred to distant outposts is unclear. The fuck's wrong with Oklahoma, you assholes? As the old guard were marched out of the NIH on what coincidentally was Dr. Jay Bhattacharya's first day in office as the director of the agency, Kennedy noted on X, "It is a difficult moment for all of us at HHS. Our hearts go out to those who have lost their jobs." Despite characterizing the terminations as difficult, Kennedy underscored that they were in fact still necessary. The reality is clear. What we've been doing isn't working. Despite spending $1.9 trillion in annual costs, Americans are getting sicker every year. In the past 4 years alone, the agency's budget has grown by 38%, yet outcomes continue to decline. What else does this remind you guys of? Wrote the health secretary, "We must shift course. HHS needs to be recalibrated to emphasize prevention, not just sick care. These changes will not affect Medicare, Medicaid, or other essential human services. And according to some folks, this is a bad thing." Bhattacharya said in an email to staff that terminations would have a profound impact on key NIH administration functions, including communications, legislative affairs, procurement, and human resources. And thanked the scientists and staff whose work has contributed to life-saving breakthroughs in biology and medicine. Although a long time coming, the layoffs caught some workers off guard and enraged certain health establishmentarians. Jessica Henry, formerly a digital communications specialist at the NIH's National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research, told the New York Slimes that she learned after showing up to work in Maryland on Tuesday that she had been canned with her entire team of communications and health education specialists. I also just feel so confused and honestly kind of angry because we hear a lot about how the administration wants to increase transparency, said the former theater teacher. They want accountability to the American people for how their tax dollars are being spent. And from what I can tell, they just fired all of us who do that. How the hell did a former theater teacher... Anyway. Michael Osterholm, director of the University of Minnesota's Centers for Infectious Disease Research and Policy, bemoaned the layoffs, telling Nature, "This will go down as one of the darkest days in modern scientific history. In my 50 years in the business, these are going to be huge losses to research and public health community." Sorry, my glasses are slipping and I need to fix my pocket protector. These are going to be huge losses to the research community. Monica Bertacanali, former NIH director under Joe Biden, told Nature the treatment of the directors was frankly unconscionable, adding, "These are all outstanding leaders who were let go without accounting for the harm that could be done with the loss of research productivity and the loss of programs delivering life-saving treatments." It's terrible. This is all terrible. No, it's not. No, it's not. Anyway. So yeah, fun times, fun times. The bloodbaths continue. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not supposed to say words like that. Oh wait, so I guess former Vice President Mike Pence, otherwise known as damn it. Never mind. I can't even make my usual joke because I forgot Hank Hill's dad's name. But anyway, that's Colin, I think. I think it was Colin Hill. I think. I'm probably misremembering. But on Wednesday, President Donald Trump, I'm not reading through all that again. Okay, so we'll just skip down to this part because those tariffs aren't just getting pushed back from the left, but also from some on the right, including former President Mike Pence, otherwise known as the Rhino of Rhinos, who called the largest peacetime tax hike in U.S. history and called it as such, claiming they would cost American families over $3,500 per year. Senator Bernie Moreno, Republican Ohio, appeared on CNN with Caitlin Collins to defend Trump's new auto tariffs. Moreno dismissed concerns about rising car prices and took aim at Pence's criticism. When Collins questioned whether consumers would feel the pain of higher car prices, Moreno pointed out that car sales are still strong and the dealerships have plenty of inventory. March had record car sales. He said sales are booming. If somebody's really concerned, they can buy a car today at dealer inventory and not have to worry about the tariff at all. Moreno also argued that the tariffs are necessary to revitalize American industry. If we keep cutting out the middle class, who are we going to sell these cars to? He asked, citing Henry Ford's principle that well-paid workers can buy the products they create. On the issue of foreign-made parts in U.S. cars, Moreno noted that vehicles meeting the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement are tariff-free. The only ones that are mostly hurt are the cars made overseas exclusively and shipped into the U.S., he explained. Moreno also rejected the idea of short-term pain, explaining that the auto industry has enough inventory to avoid immediate price hikes. You really won't feel that at the dealership for a little bit of time, he said. The conversation shifted when Collins asked about Pence's criticism. The former vice president had called the tariffs the largest peacetime tax hike in U.S. history. Moreno didn't hold back in his response, and I think I'm going to... no, that's not the clip, so never mind. I'm not going to play that. So he didn't hold back in his response. No offense to Mike Pence. He's never run anything other than a political campaign, he said, and that this is not a business guy. He's repeating talking points. He also accused Pence and other longtime politicians of being complicit in the decline of American industry. What President Trump is doing is reversing the policies of people like Mike Pence, who sold this country out, that over decades gutted our industrial sector and shipped all of our jobs overseas. Whether it's career politicians clinging to the status quo or the left's predictable outrage machine, the resistance to these tariffs speaks more to protecting foreign interests than to safeguarding America's future. At the end of the day, reviving the middle class and restoring American economic independence will require bold steps, and that's what Trump's doing. I know I keep coming back to this, but I'm just trying to make sure you guys understand. You're not getting the full picture on this stuff because they don't want you to have it. Again, the left is now trying to craft a narrative letting you know that Donald Trump is about to crash the American economy. He's about to run the country into the ground. And the only thing that you can do to stop him is to vote for them in the midterms so they can slam on the brakes. If we do that, we die. I can't put it any other way. If we do not hold fast and push through and get past these points to where things can't just be revoked with a pin again, as far as some of these changes that are being made. And if we don't start pushing to make sure that we revitalize the middle class, which is the stepping stone between the lower class and the upper class, and has to exist for there to be upward mobility. What you guys don't understand is we're getting dangerously close to what we left in Europe. We're getting dangerously close to what we left in Britain. The elites, which at that time were the royals, or the haves and the have-nots, because there was no in-between. You were either a part of the royal class, even if you were lower level part of it, or you weren't. So you were either rulers or subjects. Do our Congress critters treat us more like subjects right now, or do they treat us more like, the people that they're supposed to be listening to? Because that should tell you everything that you need to know. Do the establishment hacks that are embedded in our government that we're just now really starting to find out how deep that goes, do they act like they answer to us, or do they act like we're supposed to answer to them? Because that should tell you everything that you need to know. These are the things that we're trying to change on a fundamental level. The problem, and I know I say this a lot, but I'm just trying to drive this point home. The reason all of these things are having to be done right now and all at once is because too many people didn't take the steps when they could have. These were things that could have been addressed a long time ago. Reagan ran on getting rid of the Department of Education and for some reason chose not to do it. I don't know the answer as to why. I'm sure the CIA was probably involved somehow because all roads always seem to lead back to them as far as weird, shady shit that happens. And everything since then. The CIA has been destabilizing the globe for years on purpose. Then you have the other side of the equation with Spooky Dude and Spawn of Spooky Dude. And Spooky Dude used to be a hero of America because we would turn him loose in places that we wanted to bring democracy and freedom to. And he would destabilize them, and then we would swoop in and say, this is what freedom feels like, bitches. And then USAID became a completely different beast. Then it became, this is what homosexuality is like, bitches. This is what transgenderism is like, bitches. And we're going to shove it down your throat sideways. And if you don't like it, we don't give up because you can't have the money. This is why I don't like it when either side starts playing by those set of rules. And that's why I believe we need to decentralize a lot of shit. Because, look, I get it. Men should not be allowed to play in women's sports. Boys should not be allowed to play in girls' sports. But if we get back to the basics of what this country used to stand for, each individual state was its own laboratory of democracy. I think we need to get back to that. And I know in theory, in practice, we're never going to get completely back to that. But I'm really tired of all of the government overreach. The only thing that really changes is the type of overreach or the flavor of overreach, depending on who gets in charge. Some of what's happening right now is the stuff that I have been praying for since I started doing all of this, which is a decentralization of our government, a decoupling of the government sector, because granted, the government sector has been feeding the stock market, and I think that's part of the reason why Trump left it alone mostly the first time. But also, let's not forget that Trump didn't get to pick his vice president the first time. I guarantee you Vance was his pick this time because he did what the party wanted last time, and he went with Pence because Pence was a standard Republican, and that way it seemed like they were trying to bring balance to the ticket, which made Trump's job that much harder because he was literally trying to shake everything up that all of the establishment hacks had done to this country for the last, what would that have been at this point, 32 years? And they were freaking out about it. Now they're freaking out about it again. But the reason they're freaking out about it as hard this time is because a good chunk of the American people are on the same page that he is. What saddens me is hearing so many people that I respect, so many people that I look up to, some of which even within my own network, that are having those things start to falter a bit, all because of what was announced yesterday. I'm not telling anybody what to think. I'm not telling anybody how to feel. I'm saying at this point, the die has already been cast. The votes have been, the ballots have been counted. He's the guy who won, and he told us this was what he was going to do. So we have a choice. We can buckle up and trust the guy in charge, or we can start bucking the system and wait for it to all come apart. I can't decide for you. I only know that for the last 50 years, we have been going along to get along. Everywhere in the world, and even longer than that, because this goes all the way back to the end of World War II, when we took it upon ourselves to rebuild the world and try to reshape it in our image when it was nearly destroyed. That was a decision that was made well before your lifetime, most likely, and it was a decision that was made well before mine. These decisions are happening during my lifetime, and I choose to believe that if we put our shoulder down and we plow through, we're going to be okay. But it's not just up to me. It's up to you too. You guys are the voters. You're the people who decide where we go from here. It's not, like I said, it's not just me. It's not just you. It's everybody. And that's why I get so worried when people that I trust, when people that I care about are starting to falter, when some of this stuff is really just getting started. I guess we'll see where we go from here. My name's Rick Robinson. This is my show. One final break. This gives you a last chance to get up, stretch your legs, grab a drink, or maybe even smoke a little bit of whatever helps you think, unless you're at work. But then again, even if you are, I'm most likely not your boss, and I don't judge. We'll be right back.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
I'm Jordan Klinger, an attorney at McIntyre Law. The decision to hire an attorney after you've been injured is important. The decision on who to hire is even more important. At McIntyre Law, we will settle a case if the offer to our client is fair. Partial justice is no justice at all. At McIntyre Law, we are committed to obtaining full justice for our clients. Contact McIntyre Law at 405-917-5200 or visit us at mcintyrelaw.com.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the third time jump starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis.
And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you. See you, see you, see you.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Just take those old records off the shelf. I sit and listen to them by myself. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time of rock and roll. Don't try to take me to a disco. You'll never even get me out on the floor. 10 minutes out there late for the door. I like that old time of rock and roll. Still like that old time of rock and roll. That kind of music just soothes my soul. I reminisce about the days of old with that old time of rock and roll.
And welcome back into the final segment of the Thursday edition of the Rick Robinson Show. Live and exclusively on KLRNradio.com and carried through all of our streaming outlets through YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook. Eventually, once I get caught up on everything, back on Spreaker. Still mad that they took away the live streaming. It made my life so much simpler. But no. So now everything's got an extra step. Bastards. All right, anyway. Luckily we haven't seen the programming director yet. He's probably going to yell at me about this one. But I feel like it's something we got to talk about. This is from Science and Nature. So the universe's largest supernova explosion is expected to have occurred or may already be occurring in 2025. Interestingly enough, this actually was put on my radar when I was searching for stuff to talk about because there was a bit about Michio Kaku. I'm like, say what now? So, yeah. So, just kind of... Hang on, I'm looking for a better article than the one I found. Because this one kind of stinks. So, I don't know how much further I'm going to go into this. I don't need that. All right, so let's see what we got going on here. So the universe is preparing to... Whoops, I hit the wrong button. 1 second. Let me get rid of that first because I'm confusing myself doing the wrong things. The universe is preparing to deliver a stunning spectacle, one unlike anything humans have ever seen. Astronomers say that in 2025, we can expect to see the biggest supernova explosion in recorded history. A spectacle so colossal that it would shine brighter than galaxies. This cosmic event is poised to revolutionize our knowledge of stellar life and catastrophic astronomical events. Let me see what this does, because I don't know. I don't think that's... I didn't think so. It's being dumb. All right, hang on. So, what exactly is a supernova? A supernova is a violent and energetic explosion of a star in the final stages of its life. Such explosions release a tremendous quantity of energy, sometimes outshining galaxies for weeks or even months. They happen when a star either depletes its nuclear fuel and collapses under gravity, or experiences a runaway fusion reaction. The subsequent explosion scatters particles throughout the universe, helping to create new stars, planets, and even life itself. Dun, dun, dun. The next 2025 supernova, what scientists do and don't know. Recent telescopic observations imply that a giant star, likely a red supergiant or a Wolf-Rayet star, is about to have a great explosion. This dying star is found in our galactic neighborhood and has been exhibiting peculiar behavior. Its brightness is varied irregularly, and its outer layers seem to be losing mass at a rate greater than usual. These are all telltale symptoms of an exploding supernova. Scientists think that this explosion might be a Type 2 supernova, a type reserved for the most massive stars that collapse in their cores. If this goes according to plan, it will create a strong gamma ray and neutrino burst, giving scientists a unique chance to observe high-energy astrophysical events in real time and potentially creating the next Incredible Hulk. Oh, wait, sorry. No, that was not part of the article. So how bright will this particular supernova be should it occur? Sorry, I actually got kind of choked up reading this because if forecasts are correct, this supernova may in fact be visible to the naked eye, matching or even exceeding the full moon's brightness. It may be seen in the night sky for weeks, providing a rare cosmic event that even casual stargazers can witness. Some scientists speculate it may cast temporary shadows on Earth at night, as past supernovas have done. So what exactly would be the impact in this? Although the explosion itself is not harmful to Earth, the cosmic radiation burst might have indelible effects on space weather and satellite communications. Scientists are observing possible disruptions to the magnetosphere of Earth and how remnants of the supernova interact with interstellar space. So this will be an historic opportunity for science. And I'm sorry, Mr. Science Magazine dude, it's still "an" with a word following with an H. Sorry, I'm old school. So the 2025 supernova is not only a show, it is an unprecedented opportunity for the world to learn through examination of the light spectrum, shock waves, and ejected material. Astronomers will be able to learn a great deal about the stellar death, black hole formation, and the cosmic origin of heavy elements. With next-generation telescopes such as James Webb Space Telescope and sophisticated neutrino detections on the ground, scientists are set to observe every aspect of this gigantic event. The supernova has the potential to reveal secrets of the universe and hold hints of what the destiny of giant stars are. So something just occurred to me, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. With the year of 2025 officially underway, the universe is awaiting its most spectacular event in recorded time. If you are an astrophysicist or an avid stargazer, you too cannot miss this century-long celestial fireworks of a supernova explosion that awaits you as a once-in-a-lifetime wonder of the world. Get set to behold the universe's spectacular display of energy and enigma. All right, so something that just occurred to me. What they're describing kind of reminds me of something that happened a little over 2,000 years ago. Suddenly there was a big bright star where there wasn't one before, and it stayed in the sky for weeks. Anybody remember that? Well, I mean, I can't say remember that, but does anybody remember reading about that? Am I the only one feeling a little weirded out? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. Hopefully it's just me. All right, so sorry, took a little sidetrack into the scientific stuff because in case you haven't figured it out yet, I am a nerd. So all right, so let's see what's going on here. I just saw this story come across my desk. So Marjorie Taylor Greene and other GOP ladies blast off against proxy voting as House Dems go full metal demagogue. All right. Again, I'm on the wrong side of this argument for some folks. I don't think any Congress critter should be spending 90% of their time in the DC bubble. I just don't. With technology the way that we have it today, these people should be spending at least 80 to 90% of their time in their home districts. I'm just saying. Because at least then you can see what these policies that you're either refusing to stand against or voting for are actually doing to your constituency. Other than a couple of times a week or a couple of times a year that you come home for breaks and holidays. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but again, I said this last night, and Amish and I were kind of on the same page with it. I feel like Doge missed a mark somewhere because I think we should have been focusing more on maybe not necessarily the agency heads and the underlings, having to come back to physical work, but maybe we should start spreading them around, like moving some of these agencies to places that aren't so centralized and to places where they can actually do the most good, along with some of the same agents. And then the Congress critters, again, I could see, it used to be that they used to spend, I think, about 3 or 4 months of the year in DC, and the rest of the time they were either home or traveling. I think we should be able to get back to that with technology the way it is now. I don't have an issue with voting by proxy. I don't have an issue with remote voting, especially if it allows people to stay within their districts. You want to know why? I'm stealing Amish's line from last night, but if you want to know why tar and feathering stopped, it's because they stopped being required to spend most of their time in their home districts. Just saying. Oh, all right. So we got to hit this one real quick because this is kind of rich. This is from Rick Moran through PJ Media. Nina Jankowicz is smarter than the rest of us. That's how she rose to be director of the Department of Homeland Security's Disinformation Governance Board. Everything looks like a conspiracy theory when you don't know how anything works. Jankowicz told the House Foreign Affairs South and Central Asia subcommittees in a hearing about the State Department's Global Engagement Center, GEC, which the Obama administration set up to fight foreign disinformation and misinformation, but was used to target U.S. social media users instead. GEC officials were largely concerned with domestic English language accounts, people with no ties to terror groups or relationships with adversary nations like Iran, China, or Russia, said Matt Taibbi, who exposed much of the Biden censorship regime in his extensive review of the Twitter files. The American government has no role in protecting citizens from speech, he went on. The whole idea of the system that was designed by Jefferson and Madison is that the American people view each other as adults who are capable of sorting out the truth for themselves. However, Jankowicz doesn't believe this. Let's play this clip real quick. Hang on.
So, a central claim of this hearing is that states GEC first set up under the Trump administration and championed by then Senator Marco Rubio supported organizations that censored conservative speech and worked to discredit conservative outlets. Ms. Jankowicz, to your knowledge, has State Department funding ever gone towards suppressing domestic speech?
Thank you, Ranking Member. Mr. Taibbi said when he was first searching through the so-called Twitter files, he didn't know what he was looking at. Well, he still doesn't. Everything looks like a conspiracy when you don't know how anything works. And let me tell you, there was no censorship going on at the Global Engagement Center or the State Department. You may have heard Mr. Weingarten kind of make the inference that all of these lists GDI and NewsGuard are making, you might have thought that they were funded by the State Department. They were not. Do you know what the State Department was funding for those two organizations? Something I think the Republicans on this committee would be very interested in. Tracking and countering Chinese state propaganda targeting Americans. Now, I used to manage State Department grants early in my career. I know that that is a huge fiduciary responsibility. You have to account for every single penny that you're spending on travel, on staff time, on supplies, and you have to do it multiple times a year. So for folks to sit here and say that grants dedicated to countering CCP propaganda were somehow spent on conservative blacklists is just ridiculous. And I'll also add that that is those organizations' speech to be able to do research and categorize news sites as they see fit. A letter sent to the Senate last week shows that actually a lot of conservative organizations, including the Heritage Foundation, the Wall Street Journal, Reason, Cato Institute, and the Washington Free Beacon all received great ratings by NewsGuard, while the Daily Kos only got a 45 out of 100. So this nonsense about bias is just frankly not true. And it's also rings a little bit like a restaurateur who got a bad review in the Washington Post, mad that nobody wants to eat there anymore.
Well, yeah, she doesn't sound condescending at all. Miss Jankowicz. Oh, all right. So we've got one more quick hit. We're going to have to go back around to the tariff topic again. Then we're going to start winding things down. Sorry, I've tried to get away from it, but there's just way too much news breaking about it. And I feel like if I don't cover it with you, some of you are going to get really fucking freaked out. So here we are. All right. So Canada's feeling froggy. So after Ontario yesterday, it looks like the new prime minister, I think that's who that is, looking based on the picture. I think. I don't know. I got used to the other guy, so I'm still learning what the new one looks like. But yeah, there's the video. It's only 45 seconds, but we're going to talk about this because apparently Canada has a plan.
I told the president that I will be working hard for the next month to earn the right to represent Canada in those discussions, to get the best deal for Canada under the new U.S. approach. At the same time, Canada must be looking elsewhere to expand our trade, to build our economy, and to protect our sovereignty. Canada is ready to take a leadership role in building a coalition of like-minded countries who share our values. We believe in international cooperation. We believe in the free and open exchange of goods, services, and ideas. And if the United States no longer wants to lead, Canada will. I told the president that I will be working hard for the next month to earn the right to represent Canada.
Wish there was a way to check those settings because sometimes they loop, sometimes they don't, and I never know which one's going to do which until I click the buttons. All right, so anyway, let's get his mug off the screen. And some of you are like, but his face looks better than yours. Sucks to be you guys. All right, anyway, so look. If the U.S. no longer wants to lead, Canada will. But how exactly? Canada has a shit. Dude, Canada's military can't even march in formation. What the hell are they going to do? How are they going to become world leaders? How are they suddenly going to propel themselves into superpower status when they've always been our hat? They can't. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I get it. The fear is real, the hand wringing is real, and every single one of you have different reasons why you are terrified right now. But you survived 4 years with a turnip at the top and everybody else running the shit underneath, and nobody knew. Except now the cracks are coming out. The cracks are appearing. The truth is coming out. Everybody's writing books talking about how broken Biden truly was for that entire time. And if people don't start going to jail for what has become one of the largest presidential scandals in my lifetime, if not our history, there's only one other thing that's close to it. And this one mirrors quite a few things. I'll get into that probably a little bit more tomorrow because we're just about out of time today. It's going to take more than 9 minutes to get into that. But there is one other time in history that something very close to this has happened. And it was a president who was very infirm, whose wife wound up running most of the show, and nobody knew. So this has happened before. And if we don't fix things well enough, assuming we survive long enough, it will likely happen again. But this is one of the things that we're trying to stop. Donald Trump is trying to put you and me back in charge. The left hates it, the media hates it, but that's exactly what's happening. If you are able to pay your own bills, you don't need the government as much. If your children are being taught to critically think rather than being able to regurgitate answers, and taught to be able to read and understand things. Reading is not just about the ability to say the words. Reading is about the comprehension of things. Your ability to read, retain, and understand what it is that you read are paramount to being able to productively live your life as a citizen in what is supposed to be a free country. Your ability to reason matters. Your ability to do math. Sometimes even if you don't realize you're using algebra, trust me, you're using algebra. It's one of the things that drove me crazy because I used to say I never have to use algebra for anything. And then it turns out half the time I'm using it, don't even realize I'm using it now that I understand the concepts. And I'm like, oh shit, I just did algebra. I didn't realize I did algebra, but I did algebra. Now, geometry, unless you're getting into like design work or you like to play pool, probably not going to see much use for geometry. I liked the first semester of geometry when we were just learning all the postulates and the theorems and hypotheses and all those fun things. I was just like any other science, dude. You give me facts and information and I can go to town. Sometimes with math, though, the implementation used to be what threw me off. And I discovered it wasn't necessarily that I wasn't any good at math. I just didn't really grasp it completely. And then one day I made a $3,000 mistake in the field and I could barely eat for a month when I was recovering an emergency contract because I made enough money to pay everybody else and shorted myself what I was going to get to take home after a month's worth of work. Suddenly I got really good at math. It was like suddenly a switch flipped. But I say all of this to you and everything that I've been talking about today to try to get everybody to stop hyperventilating. Look, I get it. It's scary when we do new things. Change is scary. We as human creatures, we do not like change. We just don't. We're not equipped to handle it very well. It drives us crazy. The older we get and the less elastic our brain becomes, the harder change is to adapt to. And I think that's one of the things that has finally made me start realizing I'm a lot older than I want to be. Because mentally, I still feel like I'm a kid. But I realize now that changes that I could have instantly adapted to before make me cranky. I think it's one of the reasons why I keep fighting so hard to stabilize things. Because not all change is good. The only constant in life is change, but not all change is for the better. We have been changing in the wrong direction for 40 years. We can't undo it in, 70, what are we at now? 71, 72 days, I think. So January 20th, February 20th was basically 31 days because of the extra day. March 20th would have put us to, I don't know. I'm not doing the math right anymore. But anyway. So March 20th would have put us to roughly 60 days-ish. I don't know. So yeah, we're at about 70 something, accounting for February being short. The fucking hobbit of months. All right, anyway. Believe it or not, folks, we are just about out of time. I want to take a moment to say thank you to everybody that's been hanging out with us today. Thank you to everybody who comes in and hangs out in the chat room. Because I've noticed, even though we get really good numbers, chatting is a lot like when you do a show where you take phone calls. Only the same few people usually bother to call in. Kind of the same thing with the chat rooms. I promise we don't bite, though. So wherever you're chatting from, please feel free to come by and say hi. I will tell you right now, the best place to chat for us currently, because we don't get much traction on YouTube because I've pissed them off over and over and over again, is X. But you can also chat on Facebook. You can chat on YouTube if you happen to be there. But if you're on Rumble, come say hi on one of the other stuff, because we can't see those comments using the setup that we currently have. All right. So I don't know. I don't usually read stuff from Skeletor anymore, but I'm curious about this one. Ann Coulter put this out. It looks like it was yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to read about it. So in case you've missed the 1 million New York Times headlines announcing a constitutional crisis, here are a few typically calm, laid-back notices from that straight-down-the-middle newspaper. Trump dares the courts to stop him. With deportations, Trump steps closer to showdown with judicial branch. The president is challenging the constitutional order. The radical legal theories that could fuel the constitutional crisis. The easily excitable Harvard University political scientist Stephen Levitsky told the Times that Trump's intensifying conflict with the federal courts is unusually aggressive, adding that the administration is increasingly open authoritarian behavior of this administration is unlike almost anything I've, and I'm quoting, ever seen. As the co-author of As the co-author of How Democracies Die, the competitive authoritarianism we know he's not given to overcorrection. The casus belli that is that Trump is sending bloodthirsty, murderous, face-tattooed terrorists from your neighborhood out of the country to prisons in El Salvador. Hey, one of those guys was only a rapist, don't you know? Liberals were cool with President Biden defying federal immigration law to import thousands of Venezuelans, Tren de Aragua gang members to rape and murder American girls, engage in human trafficking, seize apartment complexes in Colorado. But remember, it was only a few apartment complexes. And murder police officers. By contrast, Islamic terrorists haven't killed anyone in the U.S. since 2017. Only when Trump kicked them out did liberals start wailing about a constitutional crisis, which is currently defined as anything that raises Levitsky's systolic blood pressure by more than 10 points. District Court Judge James Boasberg issued an oral order from the bench insanely demanding that the planes carrying the gang members be turned around and rerouted to the U.S. No doubt pursuant to the judge's authority as a commander-in-chief. The killers were deprived of their due process. To add insult to injury, in the in-flight movie was Disney's new remake of Snow White. Where was the public's due process when Biden was letting these gangsters into the country? But Trump just keeps sending Democrats' favorite immigrants to Salvadorian prisons. Not that I think it would have made a difference to the hero of this story, DJT, but Boasberg's written order said nothing about turning the planes back. This liberal tells us is as they tell us, our leftist friends, a constitutional crisis because Trump is allegedly defying a court order, and God knows liberals would never defy a court order unless they didn't like it. The Supreme Court has repeatedly held that the president has near exclusive control over immigration as part of the management of international affairs. That's why Arizona couldn't pass a law abiding by federal immigration laws when President Obama decided to ignore those laws. That's why under President Clinton, an 8-year-old boy had to be captured at gunpoint and sent back to a brutal communist dictatorship. That's also why the court upheld Trump's so-called Muslim ban. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're going to have to leave things for today, because we've officially reached the part of the program where I do have to tell you this particular show is over. My name's Rick Robinson. I'll be back with you later tonight on Jen and Rick, 10 p.m. Eastern. Enjoy the rest of your Friday Eve, and thank you so much for hanging out with us. But I gotta go. We have reached this point. It's time to say goodbye.
What? Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bomb Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Closing time. Open all the doors and let you out into the woods.
This isn't over until I say it's over!
Closing time.
Well, that's great. This is fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? Game over, man. Game over.
Closing time. Time for you to go out to the places you will be from. Closing time. This room won't be open till your brothers or your sisters come.
I love you, Oklahoma. What a great crowd. I love you.
Say goodnight, Gracie.